Welcome to the lab, everybody. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz, and tonight we have a fantastic show for you that we have planned with the new developments in the Nancy Guthrie case, which is just heartbreaking to pay attention to, and so we got the experts here tonight to break it all down for us. If you would please hit that like button and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. First, him from the interview room, my friend Chris McDonough. Good to see you, Chris. How are you?
Hey, Josh.
Good to see you, man.
Great to be seen.
We got Dr. Gary Brucato in the house as well. Dr. Gary, good to see you.
How are you?
Good. And we have retired detective John Lamb. I think this might be the first time that you've been on the lab. You did the witness box with us, and I've been on the interview room with you before as well. And it's always nice to have you on. You just
it's a pleasure to be here, Josh. Yeah, it's been a while.
It has been a while, and we did the OJ episode, we did the Koberger episode, and so it's nice to have you on.
You've had a lot more hair since then. Also, have you noticed that, Josh?
When you, I didn't, but when you get your haircut, do you just tell them to leave the sides? That's what I would do.
He gets the number 4.
I get what I call an RBH, a regular boy's haircut, and if I could find whoever it was that stole my hair and turned it gray, the scoundrel would get a beating.
Yeah.
Hilarious. Well,
so it's great to have you guys here. And, Dr. Gary, a forensic psychologist and author of The New Evil. And you can get The New Evil on Amazon or any.
In the number 1 position.
It's number one in forensic psychology today. And some congratulations are in order to John. I just learned that 2 of his books are in the top 100 bestsellers category in Amazon.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I didn't know that.
The 60th. Is number 60 and 100, and bring out Beach Blanket Bedlam.
Beach Blanket Bedlam.
76, I believe. So you have 2 in the top 100 for law enforcement bios.
That's extraordinary. Thank you. Thank you.
Congratulations.
And we will be running the links for those books in the chat. And please, if you have not subscribed to the interview room as well, I've seen you guys over there a couple times having fantastic discussions, and I'm excited to have you guys here so we can kind of break this down. Today is sort of today was the alleged deadline for all ransoms to be paid, and we can get into that as well. But today, came and went without much going on, without any payment, I believe, being sent. And we'll get your thoughts on that as well. And also another plea from Savannah herself, asking for help, just pleading for help for her mother, which is a heartbreaking thing to witness. And God forbid anybody ever be in this position, because it's just an impossible thing to navigate. There's no right way. There's no wrong way. You're just at the mercy of whatever is happening. And at this point, it almost feels, not that it hasn't always felt cruel, but I mean, they're being tortured at this point. It feels like, and for whatever reason. And my personal opinion is that, there's no proof of life, because it doesn't feel like to me that she's alive. But I hope that I'm wrong, and I hope that she is. And what are your thoughts, John, on the developments today, or the non-developments?
I think that my initial observation is that I'm not surprised that nothing has happened today. I think everything was basically on hold. I'm in agreement with you. I would hope for a good outcome, but when you've investigated as many murders and death scenes as I have, I got to be a realist about it, and I'm not optimistic.
Yeah, I feel the same exact way. And Chris, were you surprised that nothing happened with regards to the ransom payment?
No, and I echo just what John said. I mean, I think, the reality of this situation has shifted now. And unfortunately, I mean, the idea of somebody out there maintaining life of an 84-year-old woman who needs medication, and you just go down the list of all the medical ailments. I mean, and the fact that she was potentially or was injured, because that blood did come back to her. So there's a bleed problem going on simultaneously. And so, the odds of her being with us still, although we want to remain hopeful, are slim.
Yeah. Dr. Gary, what are your thoughts on today, the coming and going of the deadline?
Unfortunately, it's what I think we foresaw. The reality is that, as I've said a few times about this case in a few places, ransom situations generally are a 24 to 48 hour matter. You hear from the person. They've taken great pains to make sure that somebody is healthy and able to demonstrate that they are alive. They'll usually send a video or a message, or sometimes in a cruel situation, they'll send something like a finger or an ear or something to prove that the person's alive, but injured. So it's like much more menacing. But the idea is that they will do something to prove it, and then usually within a week it's resolved, because there is a practical goal in it. You want money, and you want to get out of town, that kind of thing, get off the scene. But
Right.
in this situation, what it looks like is that for whatever reason, somebody, either as an afterthought, because somebody has passed away that you didn't expect to, or somebody is eliminated, and then you say, well, might as well make some money on it, or that was the goal from the beginning, just one way or the other. But it does seem that one way or another, somebody needed or desired something that was being impeded by this person, by this poor woman, and somehow this seems to be connected to that. And what we have said several times, John and Chris and I, is that there really is no world in which you don't find yourself compelled by the idea that this is someone who knew her to some degree and was in some portion of the circle of her life, whether they were an intimate or a person who just encountered her someplace and knew that she was the daughter of a celebrity or whatever, knew about her money or her home or whatever. There's really no other way to slice it, because we've moved through the other possible motives, like, for example, SA. There's no sign of that. No robbery in the house. So you take those two off the table, then what? She didn't wander out. There's no indication that she had a medical condition that would make her do that. So what are you left with? You're left with a sort of personal cause thing by somebody that knows you. And then you start thinking, who benefits? So then where we're at is somebody saying, look, I'll get somebody to electronically transmit money. The most horrifying thing, and then I'll sort of go back to your questions, is that if it were, and I'm only saying this because the media keeps buzzing around a particular person in the family, I am not casting any aspersion like that. But what is so horrifying about that supposition is that it would mean that somebody theoretically is trying to get money from what might be a fake ransom, and then might also seek money from an inheritance that might come because of a deceased person. So if that were what was going on, that you would wind up with somebody that, was one way or another potentially going to. I think we have to be careful not to cast any aspersions right now. I think everything is very nebulous. We're just sort of thinking of each possible bucket that has been laid out in the public. But I think all of us would agree, you're basically at this point, you're sort of funneled toward somebody who knew her and had some reason to do this because, and there may be more to the story of her life, her personality, her interactions with people than we know. There's something to this.
Yeah. And, the plea from Savannah today was sort of a shift from, we will pay, we need proof of life. You haven't been communicating with us, to I need help. We need help. Can you help us? The desperation has increased. It almost feels like the entire investigation, because of today, has shifted from this ransom sort of scenario to now we're just trying to find her, and hopefully we can find her alive and get her back home, and whoever's responsible for this is responsible for it. It sort of feels like that everything has sort of shifted to that, as you could see with the searching of, the manholes in the backyard and the terrain out there, which is treacherous, by the way. It's thick. It is thick out there. It's full of animals and poisonous snakes, all kinds of things that are not
thick as thieves, as they say.
And
do you guys agree that in the message she doesn't necessarily imply alive? She just says that she wants to find her mother. I didn't hear her say, we believe. She says out there, but I didn't actually hear her say alive. I mean, it might simply be that at this point, what she's hoping for is to be reunited with her mother, to have a peaceful, kind of celebration of life or something like that. But I could be misremembering. Maybe you should play it, Josh.
I'm bringing it up right here. So for the people that have not seen it,
I'll be honest, as you're pulling it up, I always think about these things from the angle of strategy, and I couldn't understand what the strategy might be in this video, what the goal of it was. Did you, Chris and John, what are your thoughts on that?
Well,
let's do it first.
But I really
we're going to do that first.
Yeah.
Hi there, everybody. I wanted to come on and just share a few thoughts as we enter into another week of this nightmare. I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for all of the prayers and the love that we have felt, my sister and brother and I, and that our mom has felt. Because we believe that somehow, some way, she is feeling these prayers, and that God is lifting her even in this moment and in this darkest place. We believe our mom is still out there. We need your help. Law enforcement is working tirelessly around the clock trying to bring her home, trying to find her. She was taken and we don't know where. And we need your help. So I'm coming on just to ask you, not just for your prayers, but no matter where you are, even if you're far from Tucson, if you see anything, you hear anything, if there's anything at all that seems strange to you, that you report to law enforcement. We are at an hour of desperation and we need your help.
Okay. So
And she's alone in the video.
she's alone. She's pleading, and Chris, what do you make of that?
Well, the first observation I have is she's not talking to the suspect. She's talking to everybody,
That's
i.e.
interesting.
the community, friends, neighbors, people that have supported this family, have lifted her up in,
Yeah.
prayer, etc. So she's coming to a realization that all of the hope that she had was false hope through all these letters, through all of these ransoms, conversations. Because if we go through the various videos, all of the videos were meticulously crafted by BAU. And there are elements within each of those notes, i.e. the information that they were reading. They were specifically talking to the perpetrator, if there was a perpetrator. There is somebody out there that's, cruelly torturing this family through the communications. But I think in this last video, Savannah has come to the realization that, we may have been hoodwinked here for a moment at the expense of their mother. And so she's frustrated. She's exhausted. She's out of gas. She's not sure where to go. So what she's doing is she's leaning on what she knows. Whenever somebody is, and John and I have seen this 1,000 times with families, when they're out of gas in criminal cases, there's almost this sense of, please, what more can you do? Please, what more can you do? And you basically have to encourage them to trust the system, trust the process, and going forward, patience. This will be phase one of probably 4 phases if they get the suspect. Now, I still believe there are 2 problems here. And the first problem is being now held and handled by the FBI in totality. And that's the Bitcoin, the letters, all of that stuff, and the evidence in terms of everything that fell into that bucket. But there's a second problem going here. And that's when the homicide guys were called out the very first day. And that would be John and I would show up on the scene. And if the sheriff said, well, you guys need help, and if you were to say, yeah, we need the feds here, with resources, et cetera, because it could be once that letter came in. But remember, they were working under the umbrella that this was a missing person. That was the very first thing. And we pointed that out last night. So you'll notice who's gone back to the house over the last couple of days. It has not been the FBI. It has been Pima County Sheriff's Office and the evidence folks. So the fact that they've gone back to the house and they were, poking and prodding, and then I'm going to, I'll let John, throw his thought process in this, tells us now they've shifted the investigation clearly into 2 lanes. and we can talk about the Bitcoin lane and all that stuff. But I think now there's a clarity of focus here that there are two trains that have left the station, the Bitcoin train and the homicide train. That's my opinion.
Yeah, John, what are your thoughts just hearing that?
Regarding her comments and her statements, I don't believe that she is. I think that she still believes there's a chance her mother's alive, because describes her mother as being in this exceptionally dark place. Yet her mother was religious, and one would expect that first of all, her syntax would shift to past tense, and she's still referring to her mother in the present tense. I'm getting the impression that she's coming to some level of understanding that the ransom component to this really has nothing to do with her disappearance. It's an add-on. It's that she understands that there's something far larger going on here, that this wasn't simply snatch somebody for money. But I think she still thinks her mom's alive. And you know what? Good for her. And I hope to God she's right.
Yeah. 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 I mean, it's very difficult to kind of concede to that, especially when you have no proof of anything. And, I see people in the chat saying that we don't know if the ransom was paid or not. Well, according to what I've heard, that the Bitcoin wallet that was given, that has been checked on publicly, is empty. And so as far as I know, and that the ransom was not paid, and obviously before the deadline that was coming up, Savannah comes out with that statement, which is a totally different statement from before, right, Dr. Gary? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, I'm impressed by meaning that I find it remarkable, is what I should say, that she's by herself, that you see this shrinking kind of thing where now she's alone and isolated. And one way that one might interpret it is that you're also possibly seeing somebody that is moving along these sort of stages that are necessary toward a kind of acceptance of what might be true. We don't know yet. She, of course, is holding on to hope. But you can almost see a process of bargaining and the sadness setting in, and the denial, and the that kind of stuff. And anyone who's ever been through mourning knows that we have to go through, and we all of us have here, right? That you have to go through those stages, and you do them in your own sweet time. There is no order. There is no time. You can mourn for decades. It is all up to you. And sometimes people start the process even before there's a clear answer, because your brain has to find a way to do it, or you won't be able to go on with your life. If things are nebulous, you just sort of start putting a wall around your feelings and doing what you have to do. And for some people, not knowing the clear answer allows them to delay having any kind of emotional reaction. It all depends on the person. But I'm struck by this feeling of really just wanting dignity and closure, and that kind of thing. And I think that, Chris, your point that she doesn't seem to be speaking to an actual offender that's out there, I find that extremely interesting. Do you think that she thinks there is an offender out there?
Do I think she thinks that?
Like, in other words, someone that she doesn't know already?
I
talking
think
to a stranger? Or does it come across like this is a sham because I'm starting to think this is somebody in my mom's circle? And
Well-
then talking to the world, I'm
If the investigators have done their job, they've sat down with the family, and whoever is in the circle is in the circle, and whoever's not in the circle is not in the
out
circle.
of the circle. And it could be anybody even remotely attached in some way.
Anybody. And they're gonna part those,
Right.
those partitions, for lack of a better term, because if they're suspecting somebody in the circle and it's connected to her, we know that Savannah and we know that her brother did not commit this crime, because one was in Virginia and one was in New York. Okay. And it's impossible, to show up at 2:00 in the morning and take your mom. Okay. So that's left over there. So they're out of it. And so the first thing you want to do as an investigator is you want to create that open line of communication with Savannah and with her brother, not necessarily Annie. And the reason for that is pretty simple. Annie and her significant other were the last two that either A, dropped mom off, or B, had her at their house for dinner and games. So you don't want to give them too much information yet till you flush out if there's anything going on there. But you do want the cooperation of Savannah. And I know this sounds kind of crazy, but this is how it operates, and it works. Okay? I have a 90% solvability rate. Okay. I've done this, not my first rodeo.
On 300 homicide investigations.
Yeah.
But not just homicide, you've also investigated 500 death investigations, or over 500.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, we've put people in.
You guys know,
places.
you guys have done this before.
Okay. And so you have to recognize as an investigator, okay, where are we at here? Okay. Where are we at here? And it's not by accident the other night that the cops went back over to Annie's house. Okay. That means a couple of, we can go down that lane, but before we even go down that lane, I want to keep answering your question, and Josh. Okay. This idea now that today, 5:00, I want $6 million Bitcoin. Okay. But then we hear about this gas station that popped up a couple of days ago. The cops were in there, CCTV, all this other stuff. Okay. You have to, why is that happening? I will submit to you that I know this for a fact, that it's very easy to flush out Bitcoin IPs and wallets. The FBI has had that capability for a very long time, i.e. terrorism, okay, and the National Security Acts. Now, when you have a high-profile thing like this, okay, the first thing they're going to do is they're going to ping that wallet with about $1,000, okay, to see if the wallet even accepts money. Okay. Now, it just happens to be a coinkydink, okay, that ATM machines around the corner from Annie's house, or a gas station around the corner from Annie's house, happens to have an ATM machine that accepts Bitcoin. And you can cash out on that because it's such a low amount. I got to sneeze. Sorry. And I think if John and I were working this, and I know he's not on his head, but the first thing we would want the feds to do is ping that wallet. Put $500 in it, give them $1,000, whatever they need. And if there's behind the scene communication going on, then what you want to, you're going to tell the suspects, hey, here's what we're going to do. We just got to make sure that we're sending it to a place that actually exists, i.e. a Bitcoin wallet. Okay. Boom. It's on its way. Okay. Now, that is all traceable. The moment the suspect goes push and it's on an app on their phone and they can download all that Bitcoin, right? That $1,000. Don't you find it really interesting that the cops were at that gas station almost immediately to grab the CCTV video?
Yeah, if you've worked in the middle of the night as cops like we have, and I was a county sheriff when I first started, the personnel is kind of scattered. And this is something that Chris and I've noticed, that they were on top of this very quickly.
Yeah.
And
what do you say, Rickety Rick?
Yeah.
What do you say?
Most Ricky Tick.
Ricky Tick.
I'm dating myself. It's a Vietnam War term, which means very quickly, go fast, and it derives from the story of Ricky Tikki Tavi by Rudyard Kipling.
Ah.
And the expression is Ricky Tick, but they were on it so fast. And having worked in a county sheriff's department in the desert, they had to have had units staged, is all I can say.
Yeah. And so what happens when the media goes in? They say, hey, we heard the people were here, the feds or whoever, and it was probably the feds. What did they say? What did they do? Oh, well, they're looking for some guy that got away, and they were looking for some type of vehicle. Okay. Now think about that piece of the puzzle. How many vehicles have been towed in this case?
2, right?
2.
Nancy's vehicle and
It
Annie's
was already an impound at that point.
They're tucked away. Okay. So now the question is, oh, well, is there another car in play here? Is there another person in play here? Is there a rental car in play here? Is there a friend? We borrowed a car from somebody, the suspects, whoever they are. And I'm not saying it's the brother-in-law or the sister or anything like that. I'm not saying that. I don't have enough data on that yet, personally. Okay. However, I find it really curious that the gas station right around the corner, okay, is there. And then when we start looking at the other stuff that we talked about last night in Los Angeles, okay, now from an investigative analysis aspect, you know, maybe there are some red flags that could be going off here behind the scenes. And we're just thinking out loud like we did last night again, okay, but let's think about this. And John brought this up last night where, you know, what are the odds? Okay?
Yeah, what are the odds that the biggest criminal case in the world right now, being covered by people are paying very, very close attention to this? What is it that makes this fellow in Hawthorne, which is a suburb of Los Angeles, why does he decide that this is the perfect time to jump in the middle of attempting to recover a debt? Why that moment? I mean, it to me, that just seems either reckless or he's not thinking, or he feels that somebody's going to be coming into a payday soon.
And so, Josh, we're going to make your video go viral here in about 2 seconds.
All right.
Okay. In LA, in the affidavit, he does this. Did you get the Bitcoin? We're waiting on our end for the transaction. That is a question. And he texts that question to both Annie and her significant other. Now, I find it interesting, simultaneously, the ransom letters and notes are saying, give us $6 million in Bitcoin. So you have one person in Los Angeles saying, did you get the money? And one person in Arizona saying, give us the money. Okay. Now that could be a coinky dink, and the universe is on schedule. Okay. But now you add another caveat to that. And I'm not talking about how this guy says right now under Miranda, hey, I just ran their name through Google and I got their phone numbers. Okay. Okay. As a detective, I'd sit there and go, is that the one you want to run with right now? Not a problem. We'll run that way. And now you think about this. He not only asked the question, guess what else he did? And you got to read the affidavit. He called them for 9 seconds. Now, either he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, as John says, okay, or right,
Or
he's trying to connect with somebody, something, somewhere. And now here's the other part. Who showed up at Annie's house with the UFED?
ICAC.
The ICAC team.
Why?
So- Well, that's the question that we've all been trying.
Because you're downloading their phones.
So in the affidavit where the man in LA was arrested, this is what it says in the affidavit.
Yeah,
Right.
It's hilarious because we were. You have to understand.
I'm going to give it to
We had
you.
this accidental moment of going. Oh, yesterday we were just talking about this verbiage, and then Chris actually found the document. And right, I mean, I don't know, Chris, is that what happened? You actually found the document, and it's not an abbreviation that was in the press. That was it. That was the only language that's reported, was that line. I think people assumed it was out of context, or there was probably more verbiage. So the problem with that line is that directed at two particular people is a line that implies previous conversation, at least it seems to, and implies an expectation that somebody's supposed to be sending you Bitcoin. And it also says we.
The phrasing, and you would naturally infer that from the phrasing.
Well, it says we, like as if it's some kind of group. So what this seems to imply is that there was either a possible, I mean, I'm not casting aspersions, but I'm just saying possibilities.
There you go, Josh.
Between a reference to some prior demand that was made, a reference to blackmail, a reference to you owe money and we helped you out, now you got to pay it back, a reference to, who knows, but there seems to be some financial element. And the reason this is extremely important is, of course, it could help us finally understand what one might seek to gain from a
right. So
something like this, but it's still not enough info.
Yeah, I mean, again, you always have to think outside of the box, okay? You can't think inside the box. If you think inside the box, then you're going to shut the scene down and everybody's going to leave. Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh, wait a minute, that happened. So, the point being, okay, you have to think inside the box. Remember, I kept asking, is, okay, well, who's got power of attorney? Who's got consent? We talked about that last night. We now know that Annie says, yeah, it's a consensual search. You can go back to my house, and do whatever you want. I'm sure, to me, that's a mistake. That'd just be a huge mistake. They should have pulled a warrant, stuck it into the bucket here. Okay. Yeah. Go to the second paragraph. This is just the layoff here. Okay. Stop right there. Did you get the Bitcoin? We're waiting on our end for the transaction. AC and TC received these texts while in Arizona. So why is a crook sending it, first of all, to 2 people, because that exposes them to huge risk. Okay. And so the cops, they hunt that number down, go down. Now roll it up for a minute.
Chris, this is publicly available?
Yeah.
But because it's not redacted, it has contact information for the accused.
Well, that's the burner phone number that he used.
Oh, I see. Because I see an email address in there.
Yeah, that's the email that they traced it back to.
Oh, I understand. So this was released. Okay. Well, then
Go back up, Josh, the other way.
I was going to say, I'm trying to figure out where you got it.
Up.
You found this on the web?
Okay, go to the next page. Sorry.
It's all right.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And this is what nobody's talking about. Go up, and this is where you're going to get viral here. Look at what's here. The guy called a family member of NG, which lasted 9 seconds. You notice they don't say who that is. Why?
How do you know that does it specifically say who the text message went to? We know the two.
It says TC
right.
and AG, which is Anna and her boyfriend or significant other.
I mean, he contacted the family. That's been widely reported. That's what he was doing.
Yeah.
Okay, so coincidence?
Certainly.
I don't know.
I mean, that would be.
But it says they were not linked to the February 2nd, 2026 ransom demand.
And who said that?
It says it at the bottom. The two
I know that, but who said that?
No, but what I'm getting at is that I'm not so sure that they are related to rent. This person is waiting to collect money.
They're not linked to the letter, to the ransom.
Right.
They're linked to the phones of TC and AC. Okay.
I see.
And that's why you go into the house to make that linkage. This is on the 5th of February. Okay. And remember, this is that bad guy who's saying, and we've done a lot of this stuff where you sit there with the guy and you say, hey, you sure you want to go with this? See, the 2 text messages have not been linked. That's what they're saying. The text messages went to
a very specific sentence there. Very, very narrow application.
They didn't say the letters have not been linked to this guy or them. They haven't said that. This is specific to the text messages going to the phones.
I can't believe that somebody wouldn't use an encrypted device or something. I mean, this is like a bonehead move. This is a boneheaded move.
We're not looking at Stephen Hawking quality criminals here.
Exactly. I mean, this is dopey stuff here. You know what I'm saying? And so, Chris, we have no clue what the dynamic could potentially be. It is entirely possible that this is a stranger who is menacing people he's never met before, but has had at least some prior. It implies some prior connection where or at least it suggests where there was discussion of money that was expected, and the person is basically saying, like, where's my money?
Well,
we're waiting for it, right?
Yeah, and Josh, you could take that down for a sec, if you would. If you think about, right, to your point, Gary.
Right.
Okay. Remember, crooks are always the kind of guys that go in and they go back to the refrigerator in the liquor store and they grab a 6-pack of beer and they walk up and they put it on the counter. And the clerk says, you have an ID? You don't look 21. And they go like this. Yeah, here you go. And then they go, give me your money. And the clerk looks at the ID and puts it in her pocket and says, yeah, absolutely. Opens the cash register and hands it to him. Okay. The patrol officer gets there and, right, John, you know what I'm talking about. Hey, here's the guy. Okay. They're not rocket scientists. And so a lot of times you get situations like this where, what we all talked about last night, this idea of, what, I think today I'm going to get me some Bitcoin money. Okay. You notice we don't know what the amount was that he asked for in those other text messages that we haven't seen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What if he says, I need 4 million in Bitcoin. And by the way, here's my email address. Okay. So they swoop him up, and sometimes how it happens is, what do you know about Nancy Guthrie? Hey man, I just did this on my own. Trust me, I just woke up today and decided I need $4 million in Bitcoin, and you guys are all here. Okay. Or how'd you get their numbers? Well, I just went on the internet and I ran it. Okay, and I pulled them up. Okay, that sounds logical. Let's see your phone. Click. All that data goes in. Okay, and guess what? There's 10 or 15 phone calls to the same phone number. Okay, that he used before he got the burner number. And then all of a sudden there's this connection that says, oh, wait a minute. I thought you said, hey, you don't know any more about this, but I got to tell you, we did a download on your phone and it looks like you guys have been communicating for quite some time. How long have you known, so-and-so, such and such? And then what happens there is the phone is picked up. Say, hey, go over and grab those phones. Go over and grab those phones at Annie's house and get any data at that house. Download it. And guess what? They showed up. ICAC showed up with a UFED. I have said from day one, why are these guys here? DLR does not look right. John, thoughts?
There are there are departments within a sheriff's department that handle computer crime, and they are not connected with ICAC. The department was an evidence custodian at a large department here in Virginia, and there were a section of the department that they handled computer crimes. They didn't handle ICAC connected crime. So I find it a mystery as to why you would bring this specific unit out when I know that their caseload is enormous. So why you would call them out is a mystery to me. I would be reluctant to speculate, but I can tell you, as you just said, it's like the old Highlights magazine or What's Wrong with This Picture? And that's the...
Yeah, and what was interesting, how did the sheriff play it off in the press conference? And everybody remember? He just says, oh, they're out here to help us search.
Well, that's technically true.
Yeah. Yeah, but you notice he didn't answer the question. He said they're out here to help us search. So we needed more people, so we called everybody, and these guys happen to be around. Okay, and now then there's been this other side of the speculation of, and conversations about, well, maybe one of their ICAC, they're the only ones with the UFED, and et cetera, yada, yada. Okay, well, if that's the case and it's a homicide scene, John, what are we going to do with the devices? Are we going to test them right there at the scene?
No, the devices are going to go into evidence. And here's the other problem you're going to have is that homicide evidence is kept forever. It's either entered into if it arrives in a courtroom and the case is adjudicated, that evidence is maintained. But any evidence seized in a murder case, we keep forever. And the theory being behind it is that if someday somebody said, no, the person you found guilty is actually innocent, that you can actually go back and pull the evidence out and go through it. So once those things go into evidence, they stay there forever.
Yeah, and let me make this very, very clear. Okay. I'm not saying they know each other. I'm saying from an investigative position, you have to make sure they don't know each other. That's what I'm saying. And so you don't take the word for just the crook that you just read as Miranda rights and say, you know what, the guy's telling me everything I need to know. No. Okay. And I'll give you a perfect example of a caper that I had in 95. Her name was Rebecca Ann Jensen. Okay. Her car was being driven by a transient named Dave Mick. And when I talked to that guy, he tells me, oh yeah, the lady let me have the car and she went down to Tijuana. Okay. Well, 2 searching cadaver dogs later, we discover Rebecca Jensen, a mother of 3, buried, and a second guy, by the way. I don't remember if you remember, Brian, Whitbread pulled the other one.
Mhm.
But we find 2 dead bodies in this grassy or in this area. And so here's my point by even bringing that up. Crooks lie. And they're really good at it sometimes. Yeah, look at
Well, you
Joe.
know,
It's not the price tag.
the old joke, how do you know when a crook is lying? They
Their
live
mouth-
right,
their lips
exactly.
move.
You know,
Or the other thing, which was if they swear on their mother's grave,
Yeah.
go out there with a skip loader and dig the grave up to prove it. I mean, they lie about everything. And in this era, merely because he can claim and somebody could replicate the results by going onto Google, I've noticed we've seen some comments here of people saying, well, I went on and found their numbers. That is not in any way a verification of what he had to say. So, and I noticed a comment here that several people want to know, all right, well, where is Nancy? Part of what we're addressing here is we hope to be able to get, the expression used to be in the day, a twist on somebody so that we can find Nancy. And it generally doesn't come about from kind appeals to people. Generally, at this stage, you've got to be able to offer the carrot or the stick. And they're trying to get the stick at this point.
Yeah. You know, there's I love how some things get interesting sometimes. So we'll see how this is gonna unfold. But you know, there's a reason they're going back to the house with, you know, lights, camera, action. Okay, they're back at Annie's house for a reason, and that they came out with wearing evidence gloves. They came out carrying a bag of something. Okay. And so that could only mean a couple of things. Did the mother leave something back at the house and they went to collect it? Or are they collecting other things that are connected to her disappearance? We don't know. We'll find out at some point. So we'll see.
So just to recap, the man that was arrested for contacting the family and trying to exploit what they say, you know, is they're trying to exploit the family out of money, did actually call the son-in-law and the daughter.
Well, the affidavit says he called family for 9 seconds. So the question is who? We don't know. And the question is why? We don't know. There's an assumption that it's connected to the email or to the text message, but you wouldn't know that until you sat with the suspect and you said, hey, we noticed you had a 9-second phone call with the suspect, with the family. What did you say? And why did you call them? And that would have been under the Miranda during the interview.
Gotcha.
So guess what? He told them. And we don't know what that answer is. What if he said, well, dude owes me money? Well, what dude? Who? What, when, where, and why? And then you start running down that lane. You'll be surprised how many cases come together from Arizona and Los Angeles. That can happen in a lickety split. Okay. And it can also start, manifesting itself in other things. Where's Nancy? I don't know. Okay, well, you're going to do a couple of controlled phone calls and we'll talk to the DA. Because right now you're only going down for Bitcoin / text messages. Okay, what do you want me to do? Here's a script. Follow it.
And so if this was kind of my thinking, originally when this happened, and they say that the perpetrator or perpetrators were in the house for between 30, 40 minutes, something along those lines. If it's a true kidnapping ransom situation, you're not going to be in the house that long, are you? I mean, 30, 40 minutes?
Pretty leisurely abduction.
Right. I mean, the point would be to get in, take the person, in this case, Miss Nancy. The whole thing is 2-3 minutes. I mean, maybe you search out the cameras, destroy them, but that never made sense from the very get-go to me. Was that typically ransoms? You go in, you do the kidnapping, and then you start negotiating. Pretty much, we have your loved one. This is our demands. We need you to meet our demands. That didn't happen right away. So, that to me, that would indicate that the 30, 40 minutes would indicate some sort of struggle inside the home. I mean, there was blood and on the front porch, and who knows exactly what was on the inside. Could this just be, nothing more than maybe a domestic dispute, or maybe a staging? I mean, when you originally heard about this, John, did you think that it was a ransom?
The very first thing that I thought about was, for starters, kidnapping for ransom is an exceedingly rare crime in the United States. And if you were going to kidnap somebody for ransom, it occurs to me that you wouldn't send your ransom demands to TMZ and the local news stations. You would contact the family directly, and you would contact the family quickly and hope that you could wrap it up before law enforcement's involved. Just from the outset, I said, this is something that doesn't fit with what we know of known patterns. I mean, the exception would be to that is with terrorist organizations, where they would make an effort to be known. They want you to know who abducted the person. But for the United States, for something like this, that was the first thing that set off warning lights for me. The next thing is, yes, I think that there's a good chance that things were staged there. We can only speculate what the condition of the house is like because we don't know. But we're left with questions such as, how did the perfectly round blood droplets get on the porch? Yet why is the back door open? It's almost as if somebody went out of their way to create red herrings. And it almost has a sense to me like somebody who watched too many episodes of Murder, She Wrote or Midsummer Murders, where the murders are like very complex. And as Chris and I both know, most murders are not complicated. And so I'm seeing a level of that, but so I know that I don't believe that this is an ordinary kidnapping or abduction.
Yeah. And, another thing that I've been thinking about too is, to not only just, obviously she's not there. So she's been taken, against her will, I would assume. And she's hasn't been heard from or anything since, but the level of, just, harshness to do something like this to an 84-year-old woman, it kind of
The word you're looking for is cruelty, wanton cruelty.
Evil cruelty.
Yes, this is a person who is doesn't like her, and really is conscienceless and is willing to continue to inflict torment and cruelty on the family.
Yeah, and that seems to be what's happening here. So, Chris, you talked a little bit earlier about the two trains. The sign. Can you explain? We're talking about ICAC here. Can you explain a little bit about what it is that they do, and maybe why they would be involved in this?
Well, ICAC is typically it's a task force of a variety of different agencies. They provide, particular expertise to the teams. It's Internet Crimes Against Children is what the acronym stands for. And the way it's established is, the feds come in and they say, okay, in your region, we're going to create an ICAC team. All the money is going to go through FBI, and all the agencies are going to assign one detective to this team, and then we'll cross-train them and we'll cross-swear them in as federal agents and state agents. But their whole focus is going to be children and, exploitation of children on the internet. So they're given all kinds of toys, to do that. They're given all kinds of equipment, et cetera. And that's their job. That's what they do. And now there are similar teams for narcotics. Those are called HIDTA teams, high impact drug trafficking. Okay. And then there's teams for vehicles. Those are called RAT teams, regional auto theft teams. Okay. Then there are narcotics teams. They're called NTF, narcotic task forces. Okay. And so everybody has a job. Well, the homicide guys, when a homicide goes down, are over all of those guys for resources. Okay. We get to say, I need somebody from the RAT team here because I've got a bunch of stolen cars in the garage. I need somebody from ICAC here because I accidentally ran across some stuff that has destroyed, my life because I don't want to see this crap. Kids, okay, and et cetera, et cetera. Hey, by the way, I've got a lab here. Okay, I need NTF here and hazmat to pull this crap out because I got 2 dead bodies in the background too. So everybody has a job, okay? You don't call everybody when there's an 84-year-old missing woman and say, send everybody. Kind of like what the sheriff said. Well, the ICAC guys were just there. John, I mean, no, they weren't.
I would just say it would be certainly not within my experience.
Yeah.
I'm not going to judge the veracity of the statement. I'll just simply say that it caused me to wonder why they were there.
Right. And so this idea then now presents itself of, okay, well, maybe there's something else behind the scenes. And we don't know that. We just know that they showed up with devices that downloads, information. So then when you throw in the coincidence of the guy in Los Angeles who only texted, why didn't, I mean, right? We're just thinking out loud here. Well, why don't you call Savannah? She's the point of contact. She's the one in the very first video who says, we want to know, talk to us. Okay. Well,
Tell her
okay.
what you want so we can get mom back.
Yeah, you saw it. Okay. Text her. You got the sister's phone number. You got the brother's, the non-family member's phone number. Okay. Well, why didn't he just text, the brother or Savannah and the sister? Why did he include the brother-in-law in the text messages? Okay. I mean, what's going on there? You know what? The brother-in-law, first of all, is not even in the video. He's not the one saying, our mother's missing. We want to talk, create a conversation. But somehow this guy finds the phone number for the brother-in-law who's not even related, or whoever he is. I don't even know if they're married. Okay. I guess they are.
Yeah, I don't know if they are either. I heard that they weren't, but I mean, who knows?
Okay. But arbitrarily, he says, you know what? I don't see somebody in this. You know what? I'm going to text this guy too. When I found him online, I'll just throw him a message in case the sister doesn't answer me. What? I don't know about you, but doesn't that sound weird?
Well, just the very premise that that the Federal Bureau of Investigation is involved in this. The Pima County Sheriff's Department is involved. This is an active investigation. And this is what this guy decides to. I think I said it last night. It's like, no, let me hit this hornet's nest to see if there's anything in there. I don't understand the timing. I don't understand the contact. There is, I am certain, a huge story behind it. And we're not privy to it at this point.
And then you add the dynamic, right, John? Garrett, we add the dynamic. You know what? I think I'm going to call him too.
Yeah.
Hey, this is the guy asking for the Bitcoin. Did you get my message?
I don't mean to laugh, but I mean, this is the element of this that is just surreal.
Yeah. And here's the question. Who of the TC, AC, SG, Savannah, or DG, the brother, who of those initials, why aren't they in the affidavit he called a family member? Which one did he call? Who did he call? I would like to know that, because that would also then say, okay, there's more, cooking here in River City, okay, than what's being led on to here. And so now the question is, okay, well, why would they do that? We know that guy didn't do the crime, because he doesn't have Miss Guthrie at his apartment in Hawthorne, saying, do you need your medication, ma'am? I got to keep you, healthy and here with us so I can torture the family with additional notes. Okay. So we know that he's not involved in any of that, but he has inserted himself into a major investigation where the homicide guys were there on the first day. So the homicide guys are going to ask these questions. Okay. That's what we do. We ask a lot of questions. In fact, if you want to know the surgical tool for a really good homicide investigator, it's a question. Questions are surgical scalpels for information, because that's how you solve crimes. Okay, that's how you solve crimes. And observation is the other piece of this. So while you two are texting each other,
Well, we were trying to get rid of somebody.
okay, but you see, my observation was correct.
Yeah, you are.
I just drew a point. Okay, and I'm only teasing you guys, but that's the other piece of the puzzle. Okay, we see anomalies sometimes that folks don't necessarily connect.
I'm an anomaly.
No, we see you, Gary. We love you. You know that. You've been around for a long time.
Maybe even an anemone.
I was Enigma, and
yes, I put those creatures, those sea anemones at the bottom of it.
Right. So but that's a different. So now we go back to the house. Why are they back at Annie's house? Why the other night did the sheriff send his evidence team out there? And they were the sheriffs. They weren't FBI. And they took a table in. They may have taken an alternate light source in, an ALS in a big box. Okay. The first box that the first girl carried, and then she put it in her car. That could have been an ALS, which is an alternate light source, or it could have been a camera kit. But either way, they did it at night so they could be spraying luminol, and everybody's got the ALS out with the glasses. And you go, whoa, wait a minute. We got something. Okay, photograph this. Click, 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 click. Okay.
Yeah, and you could see the bright flashes. I mean, it was very apparent. That was the thing that I was going to ask. So she's supposedly takes an Uber over to the house for dinner, and I don't know how she got home, but do you know how they said that she was it?
Well, there's two stories that both of them, the daughter and the husband, drive her home, and just the husband drives her home.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So there's two stories.
So if that's the last place that she was, that Nancy was, is it standard to go and do that kind of forensic work?
I'll let John answer that.
Just because that is the last place that she was. I mean, and also I was talking about it last night, and I was sure that they would have to they were getting a warrant for going back to her house. And it sounds like it's a consent to search is what happened. Is that a mistake? Because I personally think it is. And what I've learned from you, Chris, over the years is that you want to cross all your T's and dot all your I's. You want a search.
A consent search provides avenues for a defense attorney later on to challenge whether or not the consent was actually genuine and not coerced. I've seen cases where they've said, he gave me consent to search the car. And the guy said, well, I said yes, but I was menaced by the cops are all standing around, they got guns, and I felt like if I didn't do it, something bad would happen to me. And so it's always cleaner. And I want to say it was perhaps 1982 or 83. There was a case law decision of Mincy versus Arizona, which required that in the past, it used to be that if you walked into a home where a murder occurred, the legal presumption was that if the victim was alive, the victim would have given you permission to search. But the problem with that case was that there was someone else living in that house, in this instance, the murderer, who also exercised what's known as dominion and control over the residence. And he said, had I been there, I would have said no. So we just made it a standard practice in the city we worked in we get to a murder scene where it's not in a public place, where it's inside a residence, get the search warrant. And then once you've got the search warrant, you stay there as long as it takes to do the scene. In all of the cases I worked, I never had to return. Chris has never had to return to a residence to do more evidence. Now, you could ask permission, but I would go ahead and get the warrant anyway and simply say, we like to keep it clean this way.
Yeah.
And so I could just say we used to do it very differently.
And no search warrant for Nancy's home because that's where she was reported missing from.
No, you need a search warrant even for that house.
Yeah, but
I would get it because, and let me explain why.
Please do.
The reason why is this, that you don't know, let's just say you identify somebody that you want to charge with her kidnapping. And he says, I was living in the garage. She let me live in the garage. Now, that doesn't need to be factually true. But all it takes is for a judge to say, well, you can't prove otherwise, and you lose that evidence. That's the reason why we always got warrants, because that way you were covered just in case you found out that someone else had been residing there or staying there. And yes, it's an extra step. Yes, it's and we were getting these warrants back in the day, Josh. We didn't have word processors. We sat down in front of, I was living large when I got an IBM Selectric typewriter with a correction ribbon.
With whiteout.
Yeah, with whiteout. And you would, and my first typewriter was a Smith Corona manual. And you would sit and type out the affidavit.
Yeah, when we got computers, that was like heaven.
Oh, it was like we'd gone to heaven. But you do it that way, so you're covered. So if somebody says, well, actually, I was staying there, you've still got the warrant.
Yeah, and so in this circumstance, to dovetail into what John just said, that first, when the patrol guys got there, they were looking for a missing 84-year-old woman. So under the law, they have to, that's called exigent circumstances. They got blood on the porch. They may have, evidence inside the house. So by law, they can go through that entire house. They can start a search and rescue. They can do all of those things. But the first thing, as soon as the chief or the sheriff says, get the homicide guys here, okay, it looks like a crime scene, okay, the first thing any homicide guy is going to do is say, do we have consent? Because Mrs. Guthrie's missing, and this is her house. Who has A, power of attorney to give us consent, i.e. sign all the forms, or B, let's shut it down and let's get on the phone and get a judge and explain the circumstances. Freeze it, okay, and walk away, okay? And then you just wait. In fact, how many times you'd stand there, for an hour, 2 hours because you couldn't get a judge. They're all tied up or they're at dinner or whatever, But today it's not hard. You just pick up the phone, and you have these forms. You fill in the form with your probable cause. You're on the phone with the judge. It's all being recorded. Your Honor, here's what we have. You state your probable cause, your training and experience. And then the judge says, okay, sign now. And you sign, and he says, date, today, time, ding. Okay, detective, return it within 10 days. Thank you, Your Honor. End of story. Okay, guys, we got it. Okay, let's go. And you put it in your file, throw it in the car so you don't lose it. Take a copy with an evidence or with a inventory sheet that you're going to leave there for the family, and boom, go to business. We took photos, we did this, we did that, we did boom. We took all these things, we towed her car, which they didn't do. Big problem. Okay, but we'll get to that later. Okay, and that's how it works. Now, the moment the tape comes down, you got to start all over.
Right.
Okay. You don't get a well, hey, now the FBI wants to look at it. What?
Well, I was talking about this a little bit last night, and when I first heard about that, I was doing a different show, and somebody said, well, there's no tape up there anymore. And I said, there's no tape up anymore. They said, no, they took the scene down. They released the scene. And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was actually kind of shocking to me. You know, and I've never worked a crime scene in my life, but
Yes.
rule number 1, don't contaminate the crime scene. And it's an active crime scene until you're solved. Correct?
You know that the defense, if they ever get the bad guy, hypothetically,
Yeah.
the first going to say the first thing the defense is going to say, can we have a defense exhibit 1? Okay, can you tee that up for me? Yeah. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, or excuse me, Mr. Enton. Yeah. Did you walk up on the porch and saw the blood? Yes, I did. Okay, can we play the video, please? And then he's going to put the lead detective on and say, so when did you take the crime scene down? Well, you know, blah, blah, blah. I see. And did you guys collect blood? Oh, yeah, we swabbed it. You know, we photographed it and everything like that. Okay, no problem. Thank you. I'd like to call FBI agent Joe Schmo. Agent Schmo, when you got back there, did you guys put crime scene tape up? Yeah. Why? You see where this is going to go? We used to call that getting fonged.
Yes.
Okay. Remember, I've shared this story.
Criminalist, the
Yeah,
criminalist from the LAPD.
Yeah, with Barry Scheck.
Yes, his name was Fong.
And he
The
would
O.J. Simpson trial.
during the OJ trial, he turned to the jury and he goes, "What about that, Mr. Fong?" Okay. So we were all, I remember back in the day, Joe, we were all like, I'm not getting fonged for nobody. I'm not getting fonged for anyone. Okay. He was even asking how many pair of gloves he wore. Didn't you? Well, did you change? And you notice all of that became a noise, just noise. Okay. Just noise. And so you want to prevent all the noise. You want to prevent all the noise. And this case right now has a lot of noise.
Dr. Gary, you know, one of the questions that I've kind of been wondering is, you know, is it possible that they're having the family sort of play along with this, for lack of a better word, play along with this ransom thing because they don't want, if there's somebody in the inner circle, maybe they want them to believe that they're searching another avenue while they're actually focusing in on the actual suspects that they believe are the suspects. And what are the chances that this is a stranger compared to somebody that she knows?
Well, first of all, there are a lot of clues that come from, you know, our collective experience that really point away from a stranger, because when a stranger invades your home, is generally one of 2 major reasons they're doing it. One is that they are assaulting you sexually, and there's no indication whatsoever. I think we would have heard by now, right, Chris? Don't you think, if there was semen or some other kind of indication of that, or maybe not?
Maybe not. They may be.
Okay. But the facts point away
Right.
from SA at this juncture. I mean, remember, they originally thought this was a missing person. We don't know what clue that gives us, but it gives you some idea what the house must have looked like, right? It wasn't, there weren't classic signs there that somebody's life had been taken or anything like that, right? So we don't know if there was a sexual element, but I tend to think not, based so far on what we know so far. And the other major reason you would do it would be to take something, to rob something, to, you know, and when you have no robbery and you have no sexual assault, you can also see stranger attacks by people that are completely deranged. You know, a psychotic person breaks in and does, but there's no major signs of disorganization or anything like that that would be consistent with somebody breaking in for, you know, completely disorganized psychotic reason. So what are you left with? We also, as I said earlier, there's no reason whatsoever to believe that she had a medical condition that would make her walk out by herself, leave the door open one place, leave blood, you know, the whole, I mean, and she would have been found. When people wander out, they're generally located within a few miles, because how far could you go? She was 84 years old. She couldn't really even ambulate. So what are you left with? You're left with the kind of motive that you see in somebody who is sort of around you, that has interacted with you in your life, right? Even today, if you watch the video from TMZ, where they sort of summarized where things are at, the person speaking said that it looks pretty clear, at least to them, looks pretty clear that this is somebody like in the Tucson area, like it's like there, and they even said, if I remember, that probably knew her in some way, or at least knew that she had a celebrated daughter or had chanced upon her in some way, right? So they're coming around, at least they are coming around to seeing things, I think, through the same lens we are. And the other thing is the risk level, as Chris will tell you, the risk that was incurred is more what we would see in somebody that knows you, right, Chris?
Yeah, for the suspect risk level is too high here.
It's right, and it points, as we know from years of research on this and experience, that points to someone who's comfortable in the home and with you, because they don't see it as a risk like someone else would, right? This person must have spent something like 40 minutes strolling around in there, right? So that all points to someone who knew. Now, regarding your question about, is it possible that they're, sort of getting family member or family members to play along? I think if it were done in a way that was sensitive and ethical, that kind of thing can be done. Like if you say to someone, look, we're going to tell you that we have found your mom, and we'd really like you to help bring somebody to justice. But to do that, we need ransom money to come into this account so we could track it, that kind of thing. But I think you'd have to be profoundly sensitive and ethical about it. Guy, that's really a question more for Chris and John. Could you envision a situation in which they have a suspect in mind and they're saying to a family member, like, maybe you could sort of not reveal that we have someone on the radar and you could help us by doing X? Or do you think that would be considered too sensitive and ethically problematic?
That would be an individual decision. There wouldn't be an issue of ethics. But I would have a concern about a family member being outraged. You never know if you're going to deal with the sort of blood's thicker than water.
Right.
But that also seems almost a little convoluted, because family members are going to know generally when other family members are lying. They know each other intimately. I would have to really want to look at a huge whatever the reward and risk is involved. So maybe, but I'd have to look at it closely. But it's not an ethical issue. We can lie to suspects all day.
Right.
And we have.
Right. And see, and I think that
That's a viral clip right there.
His timing is impeccable.
It is.
I know, it's like comedic. Timing is.
And they say a lovely dog. That's Andy, who saw my golden retriever walk away. That's Andy. He's tired of listening to me laying here, so he went to the bedroom.
I love it. Now, I will tell you that one of the things we've all been talking about is the possibility of some degree of staging. We've also talked about the possibility that there really was no crime committed at Nancy's house, that something might have befallen her elsewhere, and somebody might have made a drive over to the house to sort of put some blood there and leave a door open and make things look sort of askew in a way that almost looks amateurish, that looks almost like somebody mimicking. That's possible. Staging is not uncommon in people who think they're smarter than everybody else and are trying to, throw everybody off the track, as would be the false ransom kind of thing, right. If that's what's going on, and that all points to a certain type of character that would have to be present here. Why do people who may know someone stage outsiders coming in? Generally, in my research and my experience, it is because there has been a reason that is very pragmatic in nature that you want to get somebody out of the way, and it's too obvious that so you have to exaggerate in the other direction, right? So if you're dealing with what I've called an elimination murder, you can look at categories 10 and 11 in the New Evil to understand it. You see that there are two types in category, excuse me, I think I mean to say, yeah, 10 and 11. In category 10 are people who are not really psychopaths. They can be immature and so forth. This is where I would place Susan Smith, for example, who eliminated her children for a romance. She thought they were an impediment to a romance, right? Or another example of that might be China Arnold, who sort of wanted to have a relationship with a man who didn't supposedly want children, so she killed the baby in a microwave. So there are stories like that where you eliminate somebody because they're simply in the way. Another example of that can be an emotionally immature person who eliminates somebody because they're a burden to take care of. For example, I'm writing about a case for the next book of a woman who became frustrated with dealing with her paraplegic boyfriend. So she took the wheelchair and pushed it onto a panel van, drove him to an icy forest, turned it over and left him to die with everything below the neck being incapable of moving. God only knows what was eating him and so forth there. But he died there, and it was an elimination murder. She simply didn't want to take care of him anymore. So there are those kinds of elimination murders. But then for category 11, you have to have a more psychopathic, scheming kind of personality. And those kind of people can sometimes be involved in racketeering, gang activity, RICO stuff, things like that, where you start to see people whose personality has always been a little bit more scheming and kind of aberrant. And those kind of people, you're going to know something's up with them. That's the kind of person, like somebody brings them home and people go, something's weird about this person. This person's nasty. This person holds a grudge. This person, the category 9 type, you could fall for. You understand? Remember Susan Smith with her tears, over the babies, and they fool you. I mean, she didn't fool me, Susan Smith. But remember that video, guys, where she was doing the fake tears?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Eyes that were dry, Right.
Like the Barry Morphew video too.
Right. So I got to look at it. So I think you want to understand that somewhere in there is going to be the type of person who I think would do this. And if it is the second type, especially, that's the type that would be more arrogant and think that they were smarter than people and stage and so forth. The good news is that people like that are, they're generally caught because their arrogance gets in the way, because they're not professionals and they do really stupid things that get them caught. And, and it's quite fascinating.
Like the crime?
What'd you say?
Like the crime?
That's stupid too. But the way they carry it out is very stupid. And what happens is that, you wind up with this category that Michael Stone and I used to call brilliant, stupid crimes. And it is absolutely amazing. Generally, the staging in those situations involves making it look like an outsider came in and did it. I think the Murdoch case had elements of that, where, and they never can really explain. It never occurs to them to give a motive to this outsider. That it's not like good staging where you would take the jewelry and get rid of it, or something to make it look like it made sense that they broke in. It's usually really silly, right? And I'm aware of a case, for example, I think it's in the New Evil, it might be in Michael's book, Anatomy of Evil, where a guy wanted to eliminate his wife, I think, to get her out of the way to have a new romance. And so he staged that someone came up to the two of them at a picnic or something. No, wait, what was it? A broken down car. Somebody pulls up to help them with the vehicle and just randomly shoots her dead. But he realized that this looked ridiculous, so he shot himself in the leg. So
I remember this case, yes.
Yeah, he could claim that this guy came along with the gun and just randomly shoots the two of them. Well, what reason would there be for it? It doesn't make any sense. At least make it look like they robbed something. Throw your wallet in the river, for goodness sake. Do something. So, and we also saw this, I think, a little bit in the Scott Peterson case, where there was where being a father was an impediment. You see what I mean? So you see the gamut from emotionally immature people to more psychopathic scheming people. But usually the vast majority of them, it's about money. You're in the way of money. I have a bill to pay. I'm in a lot of trouble with somebody. I had a loan shark. I've got, they're coming to take my property away, and I just need money fast. That's a common one. The second most common one, in my experience, is getting somebody out of the way for romantic reasons. And the third most common one is getting rid of somebody because they're a witness. They know too much. They walked in on you doing something. They're blackmailing you, that kind of thing, and you just want them gone. And then the rarest of them is, I'm just sick and tired of taking care of you. Right now, here's the other interesting element that I haven't talked about yet anywhere, but I think your audience will find it interesting. Stop me if I'm going on and on.
No, it's fascinating.
Because I have people in the audience, sometimes they're like, Dr. Gary, take a breath.
You got to understand, we all get shots taken at us by everybody.
I'm just saying, I take it because I try to learn from it. Maybe I don't have insight. And
you're fine.
Right. Although,
Gary, I will tell you if I need you to be quiet. I mean, come on.
Right. Well, most of those people, they salt the fries for a living, and then they knock you. Okay. So, what I'm talking about, Chris and John, right? They're like salt fryers, but they think that they're better than
oxygen thieves.
Right.
We're here to ramble. It's what we do.
Okay, well, that type. So one of the interesting things you want to understand is, and we're not talking about specific people here. I'm just talking generally about elimination murder. Okay, just listen without applying it to any particular people. I think it's educational. Is that generally, if you are within a family structure, like a Lizzie Borden situation, who I think was another elimination murderess, even though she was acquitted, with a very clear aim of money. You need allies. You need someone who also knows the person and can keep an eye while you're doing this, or helps you to get rid of a body, or helps you move the money, or keeps the fake story looking real, right? And usually that person is an emotionally weak person that you are dominating. And that person has their own issues with the victim. And you prey on them. And you say, they never cared about you. I don't care about you the way I do. Just think of it. We got them out of the way. I mean, I always thought Lizzie did that with her sister, for example. And then when the father died and the stepmother died, they went and lived in, the gorgeous house on the hill, right? Maplecroft. You have an ally that knows and may even cooperate. That is very important, because that can't happen unless there are dynamics in the family to prey on. See? And so that whenever
I have a question.
Murder, I find myself thinking about that. Yeah, go ahead, Chris. Does that make sense? You've seen this a million times in cases, right? Yeah.
And I'm going to let something out.
Okay.
Mom has refied her house multiple times. She has it's a $1.2 million home, but she's pulled all the equity out, most of it. How come?
Well, I'm sure there's some story we're not aware of that has to do with family dynamics.
So all of your sleuths out there that are sleuthing, let's get that answer. And so let's take a dynamic here.
Right. Is what I'm saying, driving with your own experience.
Oh, absolutely.
And by the way, I want to make it very clear.
We're not talking about anybody in particular.
I mean, I tried to talk about this on a TV show the other day about why ICAC came over there and it was foo-fooed and poo-pooed and all this other stuff. And I said, hey, whatever. I'm not losing any sleep over this. What I'm trying to do is you know, I've actually, you know, wore that suit and pulled the notebook out and stood over dead people, and I have nothing to prove to anybody. But I do still think it's weird that the internet crimes against children show up and somebody in that house used to be a 6th grade teacher. I think that's pretty weird. Quinkydink, maybe. I don't know yet. Okay, but we'll find out at some point when it goes to trial. So here's another one. We need money. I have already financed the house 4 or 5 times. Okay, we're done. No problem. Okay, now that's another lane that nobody will want to go down, but you come to my channel, I'll talk about it, by the way.
Sure.
Okay, everybody can come over at some point and I'll go deeper into that. But nobody's explored that avenue. I have. Okay.
Well, I definitely think before the speculation that's going on in the public makes any sense, we need to know the narrative of what really was going on in that family dynamic.
Okay, but you don't.
Makes no sense. We know nothing.
Okay, but dead people don't talk.
Well,
so investigators create narratives through connecting dots. Okay, and then you go, wow, where are we here? Because remember, everybody's asking how here. Again, we keep going back to this, homicide 101. Okay, none of us have to ask how in this situation. The question is why.
Right.
Okay. Right. Why do 84-year-old women just disappear out of their house at 2:00 in the morning and out of their beds?
Okay. And why the unnecessary extra step of being so cruel to the family? See, it right at the heart of the definition of evil that I talk about in New Evil is the idea that evil is about extras. They are not practically necessary. And if you go out of your way to sadistically, cruelly string people along and give them hope, but this implies an extra, that means you sort of hate them. Why?
Festering resentment, and it's festered for a while.
And you don't develop resentments about a stranger.
No.
It doesn't make any sense. It's like the Hannibal Lecter point, since he keeps coming up, the Hannibal Lecter point, how do you begin to covet? You covet what you see every day. In other words, why would you have unless you projected onto them, to strangers, something that you desired or felt that they represented or whatever. So there's some little extra in there.
Well, why are they searching in the backyard in the septic system? I mean, that's just not by accident. They've got the drone over Fox News has got the drone and they see the sheriff's lifting up the septic system and with a prod,
it feels like this has, I don't know if it's shifted or not, but publicly at least shifted into a recovery.
Well, they're not looking for a hostage victim in the septic system.
Right.
And I'm sure they're looking in the desert and looking in the, using
we've got 2 trains going.
Yeah.
You've got the FBI train chasing down the letters, the Bitcoin. They're doing all the forensics analysis, the digital footprints. All of that stuff is happening over here. Okay. It's kind of like a head fake, as we'll call it. All right. And John and I have done this for a couple of weekends where we have done that head fake. And the reason for that is you send 2 patrol cars over to Nancy's house. Okay. And next thing you know, you've got 80 media people out front saying, the sheriff's back here at Nancy's house. Okay. Something's happening. And in today's world, it's instantaneous. You get people there running, YouTube videos showing just the car for like 12 hours. Okay. Guess what? As an investigator, you got them right where you want them. Keep them, everybody over to Nancy's house. Why? So I can go hit the gas station and get the CCTV, where I may only get one guy show up and say why the cops were here. Okay. What's going on here? Okay. So it's a head fake almost sometimes.
Right.
So
Interesting.
So you have the sheriff's department now on this side. Who's handling the murder, hypothetically? Because, by the way, homicide guys only handle murders. Okay, that's why they're called homicide.
Right.
Okay? They're not called hostage negotiators. We're going to try to we're going to get her back, to exchange the Bitcoin. No, that's happening over here with the fan belt inspectors, FBI.
All right.
They're doing all that stuff because that's what they do best. They're good at it.
Did you say fan belt inspectors?
Yeah, that's what I used to.
There are a couple of even crueler ones, but
Yeah, they're lawyers with briefcases with guns. Okay.
and there's some things they do exceptionally well, but most FBI agents haven't investigated murders.
No.
They
Well, they don't mostly, do they?
No,
well,
only
no,
on
they don't.
reservations.
Perhaps on federal lands.
Yeah.
But the sheer number of dead bodies that Chris and I have seen over the years, that's experience. The only way you get that is going to death scenes. And you begin to develop a sense of what how things really are, and the only way you get that is doing it. And I'm certain the training is wonderful in Quantico, but you don't learn it until you're standing over dead body after dead body and going to autopsies and and so, as Chris said, they're specializing in the areas they're excellent at.
They're excellent. They're the best evidence collectors in the world. They can connect bombs, dots. They can connect financial crimes. They can connect kidnappings. Okay, that's what they do. They're really good at it. Remember, FBI agents investigate bank robberies.
Yeah,
Right.
forensic accounting
robberies.
Yeah.
So why are the feds there? Is it because of the alleged ransom, or because that was there?
Resources. The sheriff said we need help, and so the feds are the best at evidence collection.
Respect to the agency for that, because there are agencies that do not let anybody in and just go, look, we're good, and then the cases never get solved.
Right. Well, it's interesting because one of the things that Michael and I were trying to say in our writing is that the general public doesn't really seem to remember or sometimes understand that prior to the 1960s in the Western world, there are crimes that are very common now that simply didn't happen or virtually never happened. And there was such an explosion of crime that was motivated by nothing but sexual fantasy and personality at that point in history that they literally had to start the behavioral science unit to understand why it was happening. There were a few cases across history, but it was quite rare. The reason this is important is because what you wound up with is a division where if you've got a garden variety sexual assault, or whatever that term means, but a commonplace one with normal motives, average motives, robbery, thing like that, your local police department will be trained to deal with it. But when you were dealing with murders that had to do with, for example, serial sexual homicide, there are places all over the country where the police department has never had one. I think you saw that, for example, with Koberger, that the locals had no clue what they were looking at. So that, you know what I'm saying, Chris? It's like
they don't come in and investigate the crime.
Right. So it has to do with that. This
And
sort of these kinds of things.
Go ahead, Josh.
I want to read the FBI has a new statement now. It just came out while we were on the air.
Oh, okay.
And this is being reported, Enton, TMZ, but this is from the FBI. It says the FBI says it has no knowledge of any continued communication between Savannah Guthrie's family and anyone believed to have kidnapped her mother, despite a massive around-the-clock federal search
course.
stretching into its second week.
Right. But no one
and-
doubted that, right?
Well,
Well,
I mean,
and by the way, for the record, I saw a question go by. Kidnapping is not a federal crime. Okay, let's make that clear. PC 207 of the California Penal Code is kidnapping. It is a state.
If you cross state lines, it could become federal.
Then it becomes federal.
Yeah, right.
Then it becomes, until that time, if you got 500 miles in California, 800 miles, and you want to take them from San Diego to, Pelican Bay at the top of the hill there, okay, guess what? You're getting arrested for PC 207. Now, if you decide to go into Oregon from California, now we're going to call the feds.
right.
Okay. But until that time, it's a state crime. And this disappearance, evident of that particular statement, okay, belongs to the sheriff's department. Period. Okay.
Yeah, it's their scene. I mean, it absolutely. It's just high profile, so people think that the feds are always involved.
No,
with
the
everything.
feds are involved when you have an agency like the sheriff's department who only does 3 or 4 murders a year, and they don't have a lot of resources. Okay. And I'm going to let you guys in on a little secret. I actually had Tucson cold case group in a class that I taught last year. And there are over 400 unsolved cold cases in Tucson.
That many?
That many. You can look them up.
I bet a lot of them involve natives, Chris.
I had two guys in my class, okay, from the Cold Case Foundation. And so now Tucson is a great city. Don't misunderstand where I'm going here. But if you think about what's going on here, okay, they needed resources. So what the sheriff do? And kudos to the sheriff. And I just think also one other thing is, that poor guy was working 7 days a week, 6 days, whatever it was. And he went to a basketball game because maybe he needed to decompress, okay, to get his thoughts back together and kind of, but we're living in a world where even that was a sin. Okay. I mean, God forbid if the lead investigator goes on a break. Okay. So getting back to this thought process that says, hey, we need resources here. Okay, what do you need? Well, what do you got? Can we use your evidence, guys? Absolutely. And you pick up the phone, you call your boss, and your boss calls the SAC and says just that. I need resources. Can you send your FETs out here, field evidence techs, and your evidence teams? Oh, by the way, can you send one of your guys from your CAST team? Yeah, we can get one of those guys down there with the boxes and all this other stuff. Hey, we need a helicopter up here. Can you get that? Hey, we need search and rescue over here. Can we get that? Okay, and those are all state functions. Those things. The helicopter's a state helicopter. The search and rescue guys are state guys. Hey, we need the border guys up here because you guys have certain kind of tracking dogs. Boom. The tracking dogs show up. Okay.
Right. Well, Chris, just as you're saying this,
yeah,
it was said in the news 28 minutes ago. It says in Arizona's Family, it says the FBI is sending more agents to Tucson to follow new leads.
Okay.
So their manpower is increasing, or people power is
You're
increasing.
going to set up a command center. This is what would happen.
Let me finish reading this statement really quick.
Oh, it's going to say, I thought that was the end of the statement. I think we all thought that was the end.
Ready?
Yeah.
Okay. It says the FBI is not aware of any continued communication between the Guthrie family and the suspected kidnappers, the agency said, adding it has not identified a suspect or person of interest at this time.
Right.
Federal officials revealed that they are now operating a 24-hour command post, just like you just said, Chris, in Tucson, pulling in additional personnel from the FBI field offices across the country. The operation includes crisis negotiators, analytic teams, and investigators following up on tips. On Monday, Savannah posted to Instagram saying She and her family are not giving up hope. Nancy is alive and says they're desperately asking for the public's help in locating their mom. So you call, there's the command center that you just spoke about. Yeah.
Yeah. We go back, John and I worked, one of the largest child kidnapping cases in the United States, December 16th, 1989. Leticia Hernandez disappeared out of her front lawn. Okay. We didn't have all this technology. We had literally somebody sitting at a desk writing information on a card and throwing it into a box, and the detectives would come in and you'd have to pull your cards and see what was viable. And usually the supervisors would sit there and sift through them and say, this is, fruitcake number 4217, okay, goofball 2116. Oh, hey, here's a guy. He may have seen her at the thing. So guess what my responsibility was? My responsibility was there were 2 investigations going on simultaneously, and the public had no idea. Okay. One investigation was 3 or 4 doors down from Leticia Hernandez. And that was a 290 in the
I
area.
hate that case. Every time I think about it, it breaks my heart. Yeah. Ugh.
Guess what the other investigation was? And I was responsible for that with Danny Aarons. Okay. Danny and I were chasing, everybody. She was seen 3 separate times, 4 times, 5 times, going eastbound across the United States.
Interstate 10.
Interstate 10. Okay. That was my job to manage all of that going east. Okay. She was profiled on America's Most Wanted 3 times, the only child in the United States ever to happen at that time. Okay. Meanwhile, behind door number 1 in the curtain number 1, they're following a guy, who was doing some crazy things, who we know is the bad guy. Okay. But there was this head fake going on over here. Okay. I was in charge of that head fake. So this is why I'm talking out loud here about this particular case. It's not by accident that the sheriff shows back up at the house, because they're handling what they believe could be a possible crime scene. He said it day 1. Okay. And so day 1, the sheriff says, I got my homicide guys here. Okay, Sheriff. Well, why'd you tell everybody they were there? Why'd you do that? Oh, well, I wanted to give information. Well, okay, the cat's out of the bag.
Yeah.
Okay. They're looking at that as maybe a problem. Meanwhile, you may have this over here, a head fake of, well, we don't know anything.
Well, that's what I was going to say as well. And John, I want to ask you this. That statement that I just read from the FBI where they said we don't have a suspect, we don't have a person of interest. You said earlier that they will lie to the public as well, correct?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but you don't want to, but yes.
Well, I mean, look, it's not like we celebrate it and go, high five, we lied to them. The problem is that one of the other tools we have is our ability to manipulate the flow of information.
Sure.
We have something called case-specific information. Something that only we detectives and the offender know about a crime. And if we can lull a suspect into believing he's gotten away with it, we'll do that. But it's the media is a voracious beast, and
Oh yes.
And I'm talking about when I dealt with them back in the 80s and 90s. It's become exponentially worse now. But no, we will. The reality is, and I'm not even going to laugh about this, and it's also a rule because I was a crisis negotiator. If it'll save a life, I will lie to anybody.
Sure.
I'll lie to the Pope in Rome. I will lie to a grand jury if it will save a life.
The Pope in Rome.
it's the reality is that when you work homicide, you're playing for keeps. You are playing for all the marbles, and we want to catch monsters, and I would also add the way that interviews occur on television are all too often just bogus. The slap the table and the
Right.
we don't do that. But no, when they say they don't have a suspect, they don't have a person of interest, that also, let's pay attention to the semantics of that. Those are formal terms. The suspect, if you ask them, gee, do you have your eye on somebody? Oh, well, that might be another matter entirely. So,
Yeah, well, that's the thing, person of interest, suspect, under surveillance type stuff, and they have zero obligation to tell the public, what they're doing, because obviously this is such a public case that that there is going to be interference. There's been interference already, and like you said, you're trying to you're trying to kind of filter the flow of information and the information that you want to get out. I mean, the FBI releasing that statement, basically just saying, look, we have nothing. We're still investigating. And this after all the ransom deadlines, 2 deadlines, by the way. I've never heard of that, but I'm not really that familiar with.
And
well, an offer to pay on installments too. I've never known a kidnapping case where you could pay, you could pay it off like your credit card from month to month.
Yeah, you pay today, you got $2 million off.
It's like
$4 million today, Monday $6 million.
It's like
There's an element that's just surreal about this. And I don't even think we can say for a fact that the ransom demands were genuine, or that they were actually had a proximate connection to the woman's abduction.
Right.
Well,
and I mean, this thing is stranger than fiction.
But I think the part of the reason that there's this feeling that they can't possibly have no significant lead is that the president, who, clearly, I mean, maybe being spoken to by the head of the FBI, or who knows, came out, in a statement that he made on Air Force One, and basically implied that his sense was there was going to be a solution to this. So obviously he's not getting feedback that, they're hitting a wall, right? I mean, don't you guys think? I
agree.
Maybe he's an eternal optimist.
I had the sense from his statement that he was like, he had been told something, and that might just simply be the fault of somebody passing it up, passing good news, up the line.
Like everything's under control, it's going well.
Yeah, I mean, I know it would be difficult for people here to understand that police administrators would attempt to inflate their own reputations by passing along good information up the line. I find it difficult to believe that they, any of the bosses I worked for would offer optimistic observations on something. We work for great people, but somebody may have felt a need to paint a rosy picture, or we're right on the edge. And usually the people who make these pronouncements within police departments are the ones that have the least experience investigating murders. Am I right, Chris?
Yeah, I mean, if you notice, for the last 6 days, everybody's focused on the letters.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Meanwhile, behind the curtain, the sheriff's department is going up to Annie and saying, "May we have consent to search your house?" I mean, think about that. Just do the math for a moment. Her mother's missing. 5 days later, you go up to her and you say, "Mrs. Guthrie, yeah, we would like consent to search your home. For what? Evidence. What kind of, why what kind of evidence? Well, this is an active investigation. It's fluid. Can I have consent to search your home, please? Well, of course. Yes, this is my mother. Okay, here's a form. Okay. Now, John and I both agree, and we've talked about this. We don't like that way. Okay. We like the way of, Your Honor, yeah, we have A, B, C, D, and we're looking for E, F, and G, and we think it's at that residence. Okay, detective, here's a search warrant. Thank you so much. Click, and you go and you take photos, you take swabbing, you do ALS and get E, F, and G. Okay. And then you come back and you leave a sheet there with them. They know what was collected there because they have to, by law, leave an inventory sheet.
Receipt and inventory.
It's sitting in the house. Okay. And so Annie came over to the house, if they ever have shown up there, or that new PI guy that's going out to collect the mail in the mailbox, or the security guy with the gloves on and stuffing everything in a plastic bag. She's also saying, hey, while you're there, grab the inventory sheet. Okay. I'd like to know what the cops have. Okay. And guess what? They're reading it. Okay. And because that's just how it works. Okay. Yeah. That's the rules. That's the rules. And meanwhile, the media is focused on, hey, he's walking out with a table. Could that be drywall? If it's drywall, what does that mean? Okay. It's a table. Okay. The dude's walking out with a 2-piece folding table. In fact, you can go to Costco. I think they're on like aisle, whatever the number is. Okay. And you can buy one. Okay. And put it in your car. Okay. And so everything blew up with, oh my gosh, they're bringing out they're cutting the walls out. And, he had a bag. He had one bag. Okay.
And you bring your own table along because you know the system, your surfaces are clean. You're not going to rely on some workbench in a garage. Yeah, people, they were jumping all over that table. Now, mind you, I have cut up and murdered head, cut up walls and taken out, like 4x4s from walls. You can do that, but Chris hit something again, and we keep hammering this. And if it sounds repetitive, I'm sorry. You don't rely on somebody giving you permission. Get the warrant. Just get the search warrant. It's so much cleaner.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, right. Yeah. The big picture here, Josh, right? The big picture here. Okay. You don't go to the victim's family, okay, and say, we need to search your house.
I know.
Okay. Again.
I know.
Or we forgot something, because remember the first time was the boys walking in with the bag on their shoulders. Okay. And it said celebrate. Okay. They're going in for that. Okay. And now whatever it is, while everybody's focused over here on, the head fake. Okay. Anything coming in today from the kidnappers? Okay. Oh crap. Nothing. Okay. Well, we'll wait. Okay. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, okay, somebody's negotiating from the sheriff's department. Hey, this is kind of a weird situation, but we've got some information that we have to make sure we check the boxes and or cross the T's, dot the I's. We got to go back in your house. Can we have permission to do that?
Right. Well, that's the thing. We were talking about this before the show too, and I've said this a couple of times. Honestly, if that was happening in my, they're searching my sister's house and her husband's house, I would be like, why are they searching your house? Now, that would be the question I would be asking my sister. Why are they searching your house? What could they possibly be looking for because you should have nothing to do with this.
Right. Well, it's interesting because what I have here that I found on the web says, which I had never heard before. It says authorities, including the FBI, searched the home and were seen taking a suitcase and a brown bag and investigating the property, which is located around 4 miles from the mother's home. What the heck are a suitcase and a brown bag about? Have you heard that before?
I don't know where that's reported. I haven't seen that, but
Found it on the web, and I'm curious. I'm going to try to. I think it may be from Yahoo News, but I'm going to see if I can confirm.
No, the brown paper bag might be something as simple as an evidence collection bag. They're
Well, I'm
still,
wondering about that.
yeah, that
just-
was very common as far as carrying something from the scene, particularly if it's something that you don't want to put inside of a plastic bag. If it's a biological material and you're going to endanger it, you want something that
it's a
breathes.
folding
Oh,
table.
I think it's News Nation, and it says, if I'm understanding this correctly, it says authorities searched the home of Annie Guthrie, sister of Savannah Guthrie, and removed a white suitcase and a brown bag.
Yeah, no, it's a folding table is what they removed.
Oh, so why are
But they brought
saying
it in.
I see. So in other words,
It
this
came
is
from the sheriff's
these are
department.
reporters that
in
don't know what
and
they're
out.
looking at. I
Oh, you're saying that, okay, I get what you're saying. So they brought their own table there. They
Right.
brought it inside.
That's
So
they-
what John says, you bring your own table so that you set it up where you're going to do your thing, okay? And then
You create your own workspace.
you may even take a piece of paper, brown paper, lay it out, or sometimes we would take, bags, regular like grocery bags, brown paper bags, cut them up, lay it over the table, okay?
So you don't lose any trace evidence.
John's wife was, anyway,
Fingerprint expert, yeah.
yeah, she was a fingerprint expert, and you would throw, they would throw. We used to call it red wop, which is, powder backwards. Okay, and you go, and you put the table, you put the paper bag on the table, and now anything you collect, okay. Let's say they're running a ALS, which is an alternate light source, and for the audience that doesn't know, I know most of you know this, but for those folks that don't, you throw the goggles on. You've got this laser machine here. You got your evidence tech there running through, and if it's a luminol shot or if it's a powder shot, they have powder that will glow, okay, and they're throwing powder, okay, and they're looking for fingerprints. They're looking for a lot of different things.
And they were apparently taking pictures because people.
Well, they take pictures of the things they find.
Right, because the news says that there were like flashes that you could see through the shaded windows that
Right.
indicated
Yeah.
possibly some.
I was actually watching it live on somebody's channel. So yeah, I saw the flashes going on and I thought,
So in other
okay.
words, in order to get permission to do that, if the person didn't give it to you, what kind of probable cause would you need to establish to be able to go?
you have to connect the dots as to why you need that why you need or believe there's evidence in that house. And
Yeah.
this is where you would go and you say, Your Honor, it's going to sound crazy. Okay. We got a guy in custody in Hawthorne.
Mhm.
Okay. Well, what does he have to do with this case? Well, we don't know yet. However, when Miss Guthrie got on the air and pleaded for her mother, she said, we got your letter, whatever the deal is. And the suspect said, well, we want Bitcoin. You're not going to believe this. But this knucklehead in California texted the family and said, I need Bitcoin too. Okay. Not only that, Your Honor, he did a 9-minute phone call with the family,
I see.
but not the sister who was on TV, not the brother who was on TV, but this other family member who is not even in the pic. He's not even in the videos. And somehow this guy says he went through and got their phone numbers off the internet. Well, can he do that? Absolutely, Your Honor. He can do that. And the judge, 99% of judges go, well, that's weird.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you mean?
That's interesting. Interesting. Now, let me ask you something else.
Yeah, 9 seconds, not 9 minutes. I mean, people.
Did I say 9 minutes? 9 seconds. I'm sorry.
I'm just.
Thank you for correcting me.
But let me ask you one other thing that's sort of bothering me. Is it possible, because the guy in California, I think he's been let out on $20,000 bail. Yeah. Okay. Is there any possibility that they are sort of working with that person and saying, give up the rest of this net, give up the bigger fish, give up because it's possible that if there was some dynamic or conspiratorial thing or whatever, that it could be used as a way of bargaining with somebody who's facing possibly some serious time. Incidentally, I saw on the web that the primary reason the case is considered federal is because of this ransom demand thing. And I had never heard that before. That's
not a federal crime.
But I don't, that's just saying what they're saying online.
But if they believe there's an interstate aspect of the ransom, I can see how they would do that. But
like a wire.
Question with this guy. I saw the picture of this guy in Hawthorne.
Right.
And my presumption would be is that you would explain to him that Chris talks about 2 tracks. Well,
right.
One is going to continue toward maybe a normal life. The other one, the tracks are next stop perdition. And this needs to be, I'm certain it was explained to him that if he knows anything, that it would be, we used to use the expression, if you want to cushion your fall, if you want to be the first helpful witness, instead of defendant number 4, because here's the thing is under the felony murder rule, if they could show that this fellow, and again, purely speculative, if you could show that someone had been in contact, that there had been a conspiracy, then that person, if there was a pre-existing conspiracy, that person could face the same potential punishment as the actual person who did it, if there was a conspiracy.
Well, yeah.
Even best case scenario for maybe is you're acting as an accessory after the fact. So this guy is in deep kimchi if he is actually connected with this.
And we're not saying he is.
No, we're not saying
not you guys. I'm saying for the record, for everybody. We're just saying from an investigative analysis aspect,
right.
You can't take that coinkydink off the table yet.
I'm sure they haven't, Chris. But don't you think that they would be pushing to see if there was any connection between?
Of course.
Right. And that may be important because something is my sense, and I could be totally off here, but my sense is they know more than they're saying.
Of course.
Okay. Yeah. So what is the reason for delay? Are you waiting for things to come back from labs? Are you waiting for money to be exchanged? Are you waiting for somebody to, have enough
all the above
themselves? Right.
Yeah.
Are you waiting for a communication? Are you waiting? Something has to, but
somebody like this fellow involved with the ransom, you would go in and deliver the verbal equivalent of, I've got 2 pieces of lumber and I've got 3 nails. And you can decide how you want to proceed with this. You can be helpful, or I can, we can go the route and I'll crucify you. And you're not making threats. What you're doing is acquainting this person. Very often, we're also seeing people that increasingly, many Americans impress me as being like out of touch with consensus reality. This is like the collision of cosplay with reality. You're in this for keeps now, dude. And you're not posturing as a bad hombre, because you are actually dealing with bad hombres, us.
Well, I guess what I'm wondering is, even though I think this is a personal cause kind of situation, it is possible that somebody has become ensnared in or connected to some kind of racket of people that perhaps are lending money or demanding money or blackmailing or something that then creates a personal cause financial situation. That can happen too. And then it may be that somebody becomes of interest to law enforcement because they're connected to a lot of bigger fish.
Yeah,
There is that possibility too, right?
One of the last homicides I worked was 2 tweakers where the knife went on full auto.
Yep.
Okay.
The steer pin broke on the knife and it went full auto.
Yep. And so every case has so many moving parts and pieces, and that's why, I guess, sometimes I talk out loud because I'm thinking about, okay, well, what could be the possible? Well, I don't know. I mean, I don't usually, trust me, I never did it when I was in the Bureau. John knows my nickname was the Vault. Okay. Because anything that went in never came out. But
well, that was one
like
of your
a whole new epiphany for me.
That was
I've been on YouTube with my wife. She's like, shut up, don't go down that lane. It's like,
that was one of your nicknames.
That's how we think. I mean, John, how many times would we sit in the bullpen and everybody would just start throwing ideas? Okay. And
you're seeing a version of that here. This is what we would do with these cases. And there is nobody that contributes. You say, oh no, that's stupid, because even if what seems to be a ridiculous suggestion is made, it may inspire thought on somebody else's part.
Yeah. Which it did with John, where he lit up last night, and you, Gary, where you were like, well, so let me get this right. This guy just inserted himself into the highest profile, kidnapping, whatever it is right now.
Right.
And he just happens to text the last 2 people that saw the victim alive,
and whose house and car have been searched and seized.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a gas station around the corner, just happens to be near the house.
Correct. The Circle K around the corner.
I don't know. And we don't know. But let me tell you this, okay? 500 on the Patriots.
That's a bad bet. That's a real bad bet.
I bet if I got that joke, I'd find it funny.
Okay, so then what we would do, I'm sorry, Josh.
No, go ahead.
So then what we would do is put all these $500 bets on a sheet of paper in the war room. And that's what they're creating now with the FBI. They're creating a war room. Okay, that's what we should call them. Okay. In the Bureau, we would just put these, we had the snack bar, remember? The lounge. You'd walk into the lounge and like, oh, okay. Yeah, we're working this one.
So
we were cramped at that point. We were in a cramped, double-wide mobile home, and the place reeked of burnt popcorn. And
our station was condemned, so they put us in. They put us downtown before they built a new place, and anyway, we could go on for days on that place, but
I just want to, because I think I'm reading the chat and reading the room, so to speak. So I just want to make sure that we sort of are clear about what we do think can be more confidently said and what we're just sort of chatting about as possibilities, right? I think that so far, the things that seem clearest to us are that, now tell me if we agree, that this is not one of these crimes that seems to involve a total stranger to you, that is either sexual or robbery related or something like that, where there's a very clear kind of motive. And do we agree on that?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, that the person is likely
somebody in the circle.
Someone in the circle, which can include people that are obscure or people that are extremely close, right?
The pool boy.
Okay. We also think that there is, how do I say this, that whatever was going on here, there was at least some whiff of a financial aspect to it, because there's a Bitcoin element, there's a ransom threat that involves money, whatever. And even if you are viewing it as a ruse, there's still an element that has a financial question that's up in the air, right? We agree that that has to be blended somewhere in this narrative, right?
Yeah.
Right. So so you want to the letters and all that is just shenanigans potential.
Right. But
Okay.
that doesn't take money off the table.
Right.
Okay. We also agree that authorities' behavior indicates that they are also at least crossing their T's and dotting their I's about who within the circle may have something to do with this disappearance.
Who had access
Right.
to mom for 39 minutes in her own home at 2:00 in the morning?
Right.
That's
If it's
the big
not
question.
if it's not a complete stranger who just
Yeah.
comes in for no reason.
Okay. So you look at risk level, right?
Right.
And I've done a little research in there already. You know, the fake Amazon girl with the 3 guys coming in through the back, okay,
Right.
which was a daytime situation.
Right.
Okay. You want to put that on the board over here because you never know. Kind of like the underwear situation with Brian Koberger with the girl and that kind of problem. Okay. You never know. Let's put it over there. You got the dog that's been skinned with Koberger. Let's put it over there. Okay.
Right.
These are all things that you have to consider
You have to
from an
consider.
investigative analysis aspect. Go ahead.
So we agree that they're certainly looking at the circle and trying to understand who might have had opportunity, in other words. Okay. And then, of course, the what is not clear would be the motivation. I think partly the reason we can't get a crystal clear answer on it is we don't know the dynamics between people, the family, any debts people might have had, who inherits after somebody might be deceased, that kind of thing, right? I mean, in other words,
the motivations motivation always shows itself, okay, after you understand the dynamics of what's taking place at the crime scene.
right.
Okay? What we don't have is information that says what happened in that house in that bedroom. Okay.
Right.
Because if we presuppose taking on the timeline right now, okay, if we go by when the garage door was open, when the garage door was closed,
Right.
when the camera was taken off, when the camera showed the shadow, all these other pieces of the puzzle. Okay. Well, you notice the sheriff is not talking, and rightfully so, about what took place in that room, in that house. Okay. We
Just tell me
know
there's case-specific information there, something that only the abductor and the cops know.
exactly. So we know for 39 to 41, 43, or whatever it's going to be minutes. Okay. That suspect, that's a lot of data to download with an 84-year-old woman. Okay. That's a lot of data that the suspect downloaded. So now we ask ourselves, hypothetically, did he really take her out, or was there a demise in the house and he carried her out?
Was she ever there?
Well, right. We don't get there yet because, again, okay, we have to go by. But yes, to your point, was she ever there? Did she ever leave the other house? Which where did we get that information? Right. Well, they said they, drove her over and dropped her off, and she went in, and okay, we got the garage door. Okay. All right. Well, that may have happened. Okay. But now we got an incident at whatever the timing is, at 1 something in the morning, where the first thing that's tore up is the doorbell camera. Okay. Okay. What do you mean the doorbell camera's tore off? Yeah, the doorbell camera's gone. And guess what? We may or may not have video because it may have hit a server and not gone to the cloud because it's not, hot wired in, and maybe it was on the, yada, yada. Maybe it was on the Wi-Fi. Maybe it wasn't. Okay. And so now you go, okay, well, that's weird. And next thing you know it, you have a back door open and the suspect forgot to close the back door. Okay. That's weird. Let me get this right. You tear the front doorbell off, you creep around the back of the house, you go in through the back door. Leave it open. No big deal. I'm going to be in here for 39 minutes with this woman. Okay. Not a problem. Okay. And now, can you imagine the terror?
Of course.
In an 84-year-old woman with, let's say somebody she doesn't know and they're there to kidnap her.
Should be
Can you imagine the terror in this poor woman?
Right. Even with the door open, one of the things you'd worry about is that she'd be screaming.
Okay. And now let's hypothesize that he says, get up, get dressed. We're kidnapping you.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Which is a possibility.
Sure, I guess.
Right. Right. Josh, we want to put it on the board.
And wouldn't she be screaming, I need my medication? And you'd be like, gee, I want to keep you alive. You probably should take that.
Oh, never mind. We don't need your car.
Right.
Because we got our own car. Bob, yeah.
We'll go to the
Keep
farm
her here.
Yeah.
Pull the car around. Okay.
We're going to carpool.
Right. Right.
Or door number 2. Okay. Wait here. I got to get the car. Okay. Don't leave. Okay. Because we're taking you. Wait here. I got to get the car. Or door number 3 is, let's go. You're coming with me. And I've positioned the car out in the driveway to take you out of this house. There's a vehicle involved here. That's the other thing that we're not thinking through here.
Well, that's the other thing that I was going to say is on the list of things that I think we can more confidently say, because it's not like you walk with the victim,
Right. If you've got 2 people,
clearly, right,
and you're going to rip the doorbell off, you're going to go in the house, you're going to take the 84-year-old woman out. Okay. Well, somebody has to drive the car. They call them getaway drivers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So there's somebody that says, okay, what am I going to do? Well, you're the dumbest one of all, so you're going to drive the car. Okay.
That'd be me. I'm the getaway driver.
I'm the driver. Okay, great. But now the driver has to know when the plan's unfolding. Okay, that you're going to get her out of the house. Hey, we're in the house. Okay. Do you want me to pull the car up? Yeah, pull it up. Keep the lights off because it's pitch black out here. Okay, I'm coming in. Boom. Okay, I'm here. All right, we're coming out. Oh, wait a minute. Mrs. Guthrie, yeah, we want to keep you healthy because we need $6 million, but we're only going to ask for 4, but we'll get to 6 in case, nobody wants to play the game on Monday.
4 on Thursday, 6 on Monday. Yeah. And then if you don't pay Monday.
So just leave your keys, leave your purse, leave your wallet, leave your medications. Okay. And when we get the money, we'll have you back here and we'll, make this all happen. Does any of that make sense?
No. Well, add this also, Chris.
No, it doesn't.
So hang on a second while we sprinkle some blood on your front porch.
Yeah. And we'll come back and we'll do 90-degree droplets there. Okay. I can see a situation where they take her to the front door and they push her out the door and she goes down, maybe onto her hands and knees, maybe to her knees. Okay. We don't know, but the blood evidence shows that's 90 degree. It could come from anywhere. It could come from her mouth. It could come from her nose. It could come from her ears. Definitely not from her head as a whole, because you would see a lot more blood than that. Right, Johnny?
Oh, absolutely. Head wounds bleed fiercely.
They're crazy. And all the nurses and the doctors in the chat will tell us that 1,000%. It looks like a major problem. Okay. Now that could have happened in the house where if, there was physical force, hypothetically, we don't know that.
But that scene, we have to remember that when they first went and looked it over, They thought this was a missing persons case.
They saw nothing that led them to believe that it was a violent crime. They
Right.
pursued the missing person.
Which is a very important clue as to how little was awry in that house, I think.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
and,
then that's the question of, did she actually ever make it back to the house? The issue,
I've been wondering about that for a couple of days now. We
well,
all,
and a major issue here too is, look, if they can't even nail down who drove her home that night, if it was Annie and Tommaso or what, however you say that, or just Tommaso, I mean, that stuff should be easy as pie to explain, right? There should be no ambiguity between who drove her home and who was in the car and who wasn't. It doesn't take 43 minutes to abduct an 84-year-old woman on heart medication, and people don't ask for layaway on Bitcoin as well. So, I mean, go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
So let's reverse it. One of the things we do in cognitive interviewing is you reverse the cycle. Okay. You reverse the conversation. So let's play this out. Okay. What if she was injured somewhere else?
Yeah.
Even accidentally.
And they bring her home. And the blood that we're seeing on the porch is actually going into the house. Okay. Because she's standing there on the porch. Where'd Josh go?
I'm right here.
Oh, sorry. Because she's standing there on the porch. Okay. And she goes into the house with the suspects behind her. That's not out of play either. And something happens in the house and they go out the back door. Okay. But you still got the car problem. Remember, there's got to be a method of transportation here. And now let's say hypothetically, okay, something, I'm praying, please, this is not the reality. This is just a thought. What if she was, unalived in her own home, and now guess what? That septic tank becomes a place of body dump to drop her at her own residence. You take her and you get rid of it and you leave the back door open. Okay. And you run around the front, you get back in your car, you're skedaddling out of there. These are the kind of things that the investigators should be thinking about, because these are, hypothetical, whatever we want to call them. Okay.
Hypothetical, yeah.
Right. But they also could be reality.
well, something I'm sure that they're looking at is that whoever was going back and forth at that time, wouldn't you check the cell phones to see if they were pinging?
Yeah. And
they were
so
moving around. I mean, unless they shut them off, I'm sure they're taking a look at whose phone was moving around.
Yes.
I mean, they could pinpoint you to a couple of blocks from, right?
correct. And here's my 2 cents to the
Sure,
sheriff.
they looked at that, Chris.
Here's my 2 cents to the sheriff right now, tonight. Okay. Tomorrow morning, get every cadaver dog you can get your hands on back over to that house and research and search once again all of those fields. Because I had a case, Rebecca Ann Jensen. She'd been missing for a couple of weeks. We went out and did a cadaver search, just like we saw on TV here. Okay. We missed it.
Wow. Yeah.
That Saturday, I went back. We found 2 dead bodies. 2 separate crimes.
Really? Unrelated, you mean?
Unrelated, totally unrelated.
Oh.
One was a dope kill, and the other one was Rebecca,
Oh,
who was
God.
buried. Okay.
Like a big dump site kind of thing, or
Well, it's a long story, but yeah, but
Well-
my point being,
He'll email you.
no? He'll tell me later. He'll tell me later.
just because you've run the ground with a cadaver dog one day, remember the wind changes, and if the dog doesn't get the hit, doesn't get the scent, they can miss it. Okay, that happens all the time. So in a case like this, just check that box one more time by sending, maybe get different cadaver dogs. In Michael Vaughn, we ran 7 dogs in the backyard. 7.
Well, I've heard no mention from the people that are there on the ground filming or whatever that there were. Did you hear anybody talk about dogs being there?
Yeah, they had cadaver dogs.
I didn't see that. They had cadaver dogs. What day?
One of the first, during the first couple of searches.
No, but I meant like while there are people there live streaming the house for the past couple of days when cars are being towed.
I don't know about that, but Johnny, remember the time I came to you and I said, John, I need some guys, and remember that? Tell that story of once you get locked in and when some people can say no. I mean, don't mention any names, but
I won't mention any names, but in this instance, Chris had identified what had suddenly emerged as a very powerful lead on a murder, and regrettably, at that point, I was supervising a different group of detectives, and his supervisor had never investigated a murder in his life, and he just said no. And he said no because he had taken someone else into custody because he was certain that was the person. And in fairness, Chris told him, no, not the guy. And so Chris basically did an end run. Sometimes you have to do that. Came to my unit, and he needed some extra detectives, and I just said, go with it. Which is how I, as a sergeant, which was, I'm relying on your ingenuity, your imagination, and your drive. Go do it. And as it turned out, Chris was able to solve the homicide in something like 2 hours and 45 minutes. And then come back and tell the other supervisor, hey, you might want to go fill out the paperwork at the jail to release the guy, because not only do we have this person in custody, he was kind enough to confess.
That's very nice of him.
So
very nice.
And this is the other thing, and I probably would want to stress this to your viewers. When you're in a homicide unit, right nowadays, there's been a tremendous loss of experience and skill because there's been an effort to drive people out of the career field.
Yes.
And so guys, like when I first transferred into the homicide unit, the guy that taught me had been working homicide longer than I've been a cop. And so you can't get that sort of experience out of a textbook or an academy. You work with guys who know this stuff, and I'm afraid we're losing a lot of that experience here. And so that's another hazard. But this is the point Chris is trying to illustrate is
right.
You'll also be working with people. Some people, unfortunately, you work with, they haven't seen the ball since kickoff. And just simply because they have a badge doesn't mean that you're going to get the same skill level.
Yeah, and so it happens, and so you just have to press forward. I was in the field on a caper for over 30 days. I mean, literally in the brush for over 30 days. I'd come in, and the guys would be like, where have you been? I said, you don't want to know. Okay. And my partner at that time was Brian Whitbread. So, Fathead and I would be out there, and, we'd be doing our thing. But that's what it takes. It takes this idea. That's Brian. And if you're listening, Potato Head, you know what I'm saying. And
the nickname is absolutely accurate.
I filled his locker up one day with like 2 10-pound bags of potatoes. I had one guy hold it open. Remember that, Johnny? And
Yeah.
he filled his locker up with all these potatoes, and he comes in, to get dressed, and he opens his locker, and this whole thing, all these potatoes come out there, and he comes over me. He goes, "Oh, I'm gonna strangle you." I said, "What? What's your problem?" Right? He goes, "Oh, you don't know anything about the potatoes?" I said, "Oh, what happened? What happened?" Anyway, that's another day. But
The McRock file strikes again.
I trust me.
Right.
There's a lot of stories that you guys have no idea. I sunk a car one time. The USS 302 is what we called it. Okay.
Do I want to know this story? It sounds hilarious, but
It's another day. But I got a radio call. It was pouring down rain. And this was before I was in the Bureau. I was in patrol.
It was the El Nino year.
Yeah, the El Nino year, and the water was rising, and a citizen, she was an elderly lady, she's calling 911. There's water coming into my house. I need an officer here. So I get the call, and I'm pulling in, and I'm like, oh, I can go further. And I keep driving in.
Unbelievable.
Okay, well, it's only at the floorboard. I get in there, and next thing you know, it's at the radio panel, and I'm halfway in water. And Danny Aarons comes up, and he knocks on the window, and I'm on the radio saying, "Station O," because I was in the USS 302 at the time. They called it that. I said, "Station O, this is blah blah blah." I don't remember what my call sign was. I said, "Can I get a tow truck here?" Right. I didn't tell him I was almost underwater. And so Danny knocks on my window. I roll the window down, because back then we had crank windows. And we didn't have real buttons, right? You got to crank it down. And he looks at me and he goes, "What are you doing?" I said, "We got to get the lady over there." He goes, "Stupid." Let's go. And so anyway, we ended up, getting a tow truck and pushing out. I think 3 or 4 nights later, I came back and they had all these boots and ducks and crazy things, and hanging on my locker.
Well,
left a mark, but
I want to
go ahead.
Yeah, well, I just wanted to, and Gary sent me this just a little while ago, and this is within the last hour. Nanos, who is the sheriff, the lead on the case, it says that he addresses criticism, and he just did. It said Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos isn't used to being the glare of national spotlight, but he says he knows one thing's for sure: much of the criticism he's getting in the Nancy Guthrie's case is coming from ignorance. Authorities believe Nancy Guthrie, the 84-year-old mother of Today's Show host Savannah Guthrie, was forcibly taken from her Catalina Foothills home in the early morning hours of February 1st. And quote, "They can question the quality of the investigation. That's their right," Nanos said Monday of his detractors, many whom have taken to social media to skewer him. "But I would tell them this: they haven't a clue what this investigation has entailed. They don't know all the efforts we put into it. They also don't know that over the last 5 years, his team has a close to 100% solve rate when it comes to homicides, and it's currently going through thousands of pieces of evidence and following up on 3,000 tips and counting. Now you want to get picky that the sheriff speaks funny or talks off the cuff, or that you can call him a buffoon or Barney Fife or whatever it is you want to call him," Nanos said. "The haters are going to hate, but my local media, you included, know me. You know what I'm about, and you know that I've always been pretty much an open book. You ask me a question, I'm going to answer it. That's just the way it is."
I
What do you
don't.
think about that?
Well, let me let you guys comment, but
John, what do you think about that?
Just keep your mouth shut. It's not
I
necessary.
have no doubt he's working hard.
Yeah, they're doing a great job. I was the one here personally that just said, give the guy a break. So we went to a basketball game to decompress. Who cares?
Yeah,
they're working this thing. Leave them alone.
and regarding certain criticism, he's absolutely correct. These a lot of the people that are, yeah, I've seen people saying, "Oh, it's cartel related. Oh, it's this, it's that." I mean, the only thing I think I haven't seen is she was abducted by aliens. Um, a lot of the complaints rest on foundation of ignorance. Um, at the same time, uh, I feel bad for the guy. You know, he's got the spotlight on him, and
If he makes a mistake, the bigger question is, does he own it?
yeah,
Does he tell the public, you know what, I made a mistake, I own it? Okay, and that's the key. If you just keep coming in, and if it becomes personal, like the chats and all these other stuff, it's not personal for
No,
me.
exactly.
It's like, okay, am I wrong? Okay, fine. You can say I'm wrong, not a problem. Okay. Until all of a sudden all these other things start happening and you go, oh wow, that guy said that like 4 or 5 days ago. Okay. I love the Twitter today. I had somebody yesterday say, well, I can assure you there are 2 investigations going parallel with each other. Okay, well, I said that like 5 days ago.
It might have been longer than that. Might have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm glad you're catching up, and copying is the greatest flattery. Okay. I mean, there's a lot of that goes on. My phone rings all the time from people. Hey, what do you think's happening? And I'll tell them. And next thing you know, it's being parroted on 40 different directions. Okay. Just remember tonight, I was the first one that made the connection with the Bitcoin thing in Los Angeles. It was nobody else. Okay. I made that connection. Okay. But trust me, over the next 4 or 5 days, okay, everybody made the connection, which
it's all going to be discovered.
I could care less. And that's my point. Okay. I could care less. Somebody says, oh, you're looking for, fame and all this other crap. Here's a hint. Oprah Winfrey, a long time ago.
That's the cup she gave you in the green room?
Yeah, I could care less. I could care less about her, and I cared less about anything like that. And John knows me. Okay. John has known me for 40 years almost. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't care. I want Nancy Guthrie found alive. I want her alive.
Well, the other thing, in fairness to say about this statement, is that I was looking up the statistics on that county. They have, at the current rate, about 5 to 8 homicides a month, which reflects a recent increase. So that's the thing. This is not the only case they've got, right? And this isn't even declared to be a homicide. It may not be. I mean, I don't.
Who does 5 to 8 a month?
Pima County.
Okay.
In Arizona. So I'm saying that this is not this guy's only case that he's overseeing. You know what I'm saying? And there could be some of them that are where there are other far more complicated elements and all kinds of. So I mean, I think we have to put into perspective that when this guy says he's got this great rate of solving and so forth, they have a lot of homicides. They have almost 60 a year, I think, or something.
But he just made himself a bigger target by going on that diatribe. To be, pontificating is not a good thing for him to do in this situation, in my personal opinion, because it is nothing but feeding the fire. I mean, shouldn't he? And I got a comment yesterday that says all you're doing is criticizing. I was critical about the tape being taken down. Most people were critical about that. Other than that, I have had no criticism. Look, what they're doing is extremely difficult to do. Finding people is an extremely hard thing to do. Missing people. I mean, I've covered missing cases for about 6 years now. I understand that it is a very, very difficult thing to do. And that's why they want people to lead them to bodies of missing people, because it is so hard to just accidentally stuff. Kaylee Anthony was less than a mile from her home for 9 months, thrown on the side of the road. Texas Equisearch was down there searching everywhere. There were thousands and thousands of people. A meter maid going pee on the side of the road found the bag. So I understand how difficult this is. I'm not criticizing the guy. All I'm saying is, it would probably behoove him to not feed into this stuff. That's my thoughts.
Well, the other thing I could envision being difficult, and I'm not talking about him, but anybody that was overseeing this, is that you would also, I think, be frustrated that the federal government is in there too, because it's like, who takes credit, who takes blame, who's responsible for that? Because that's got to get a little complicated, particularly if there are egos involved. I can't imagine. I mean, you guys can tell me, when there's that crossover of FBI and local law enforcement, do people's heads get in the way? Do they butt heads? Are there egos about it?
Yeah. And
Okay.
if there's any concern about taking credit for the case, there's a joke I will tell you off air, because it summarizes it. Yes, he is dealing with a difficult situation.
Yes.
And the key is slow everything down.
Yes.
Use your people, not your podium. And he's a politician. He's an elected official. Okay. There's been a shift in the last 10 years of politicians going to the podium to solve crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Politicians don't solve crimes. Okay. Can you give me one mayor that's ever put a set of handcuffs on a prisoner? Just give me one.
I can think of some that have gotten in the way.
Well,
yeah, I can think of some mayors that have been handcuffed.
Yeah, and this is
when Feinstein came out and told everybody that they had discovered the type of sneaker that Richard Ramirez wore, based on stepping on a victim.
I remember that.
And he went to the bridge and threw the sneakers over the bridge and never went them again. And they almost had him. He had stood on a box to break into a window, and they had a print from his sneaker, a very unique type of sneaker. They could have had that guy and saved a lot of people's lives. But she came out publicly and said, "Good news. We have a great lead. We figured out that this guy wears a unique sneaker."
Now think about this.
Remember that?
Okay.
Oh,
yeah,
yes, I do. Because we were working Wisconsin.
Yeah, we were working it. And so think about this. For the last couple of days, what's the sheriff said? No press conferences unless something breaks. And what did he just do?
That's what I'm saying. I understand the need to want to defend yourself. I mean, we're all human, but I mean, you're going to get criticized no matter what in this.
I got criticized in the chat 2 minutes ago about Chris, be more humble. Okay. Well, I'm proud of my humility. Okay. And this idea of, if I had a bunch of FBI plaques behind me, everybody would go, "Oh, retired FBI." Okay. Oh my gosh, let's talk to this guy. They know everything, bring them in. Okay. Or if I was a Navy SEAL, 10 million, whatever it is. Okay. Well, I have 300 murders under my belt. Do you see any plaques? No, but I get to talk about them. Can I?
Of course.
But my point being, okay, there were only 7 of us in our town. And that, guess what? Just in 1 year alone, we had 30 murders for 7 people. Do the math on that one.
That's rough.
Okay? Now do that for 13 years. And then add it up. Okay? It's not rocket science. I'm in that homicide book all over the place. Okay.
Yeah.
But guess what? It's not anywhere behind me.
Yeah.
It's not here. All those challenge coins are all the different agencies that I've interacted with and gone with. Okay. So I love the fact that, you know, somebody can just get in there and say, you know what, you're not who you think you are. Okay, you're right. I'm not. I'm dirt. God knows that. I'm organized matter. I recognize that firsthand more than anybody, that I get on my knees every single morning and I say, thank you, Lord, for the breath of life. I'm so grateful because I don't know when I'm going to check out. Okay. It's not about the plaques and it's not about how people feel about me. This is about Nancy Guthrie. I could care less about me. I get up here and come over to talk to my friends.
Yeah.
To say, let's think outside of the box, folks. I got jammed by, you know, Nancy Grace the other day. I was on her show. She cut me off like, get him out of here. And I'm like, okay, yeah, bye.
I remember that. I would, yeah.
I have to see that. I did.
Oh, it's on her channel. But Josh, did I care?
No, and I even called you about it specifically. You're like, yeah, I didn't even watch it. I didn't watch it back.
Yeah, I don't care. I don't care because it's not about me.
I watched it.
But that piece of the puzzle is so funny. Okay. This is why, you know, folks have no idea.
Right.
None.
Well, that's what I meant about the French, the salt, what is it? French fries, salt server or whatever. The shaker, the salt shaker. I didn't mean that to sound elitist or something. What I meant by it is that someone whose area of expertise has absolutely nothing to do with anything that you're doing comes out of the woodwork and criticizes you as if they know better, or they state emphatically, you know, so it's like you just got off your shift at the fast food restaurant and you're on your phone and you're snapping at a reporter or a politician or a police chief or a doctor or whatever, and you're telling them that you know better than they do because you've read, you know, a John Douglas book that you picked up at the supermarket. You know, I mean, come on. Well, so it's something like it's a little bit of like a stay in your lane kind of thing, you know. And I could imagine if I were in the position of that I would be horrified by that.
You know, no. Yeah. I think we have to understand the human condition, right?
People try to keep me humble. I appreciate that.
Right? We have to understand the human condition.
Yes.
You haven't lived until somebody runs up to you and hands you a baby who's not breathing.
Oh yeah.
And says, "Save my child." Okay?
Right.
In those files back there, I have 4 life-saving awards. 4 of them.
Yeah.
For different circumstances. John's even written me up for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Guess what? I could open those books and say, look at me all day long. Okay.
Right.
But I'll tell you what, when that father hands you that kid with a banana lodged in their throat, or you get to that baby at the bottom of the pool and the father reaches up and hands you the child and you have to do CPR on that child, okay? Then criticize me in the chat. Give me a call, would you?
I would add something else, Chris, and I think that this is an important thing. Real homicide detectives, we are often perceived as being arrogant. We're often perceived as being sometimes bossy. We are perceived that way because guess what? We are. We have to be, when you take over control of the investigation of someone's human life being taken, baby, you better know what you're doing and you better be confident with it because you're in charge. When I would walk into a murder scene, it's mine. And I am going to be, I will attempt to be a benevolent tyrant, but if benevolence doesn't work, then I can trot out Ivan the Terrible if need be. Because I have been entrusted, just as Chris has been entrusted, with being the voice for the victim. And so we know what we know. And so I would just suggest to the person that suggested you be humble that perhaps one of the an even bigger sin is false humility, pretending as if you're unworthy of it. And so I would just say, yes, I've been accused of being arrogant, and I say guilty, but this is how you run a scene. A strong personality is needed. I've never met somebody they're like a pillow. Whoever sat on them left the biggest impression. When you're in charge of a murder scene, you have got to be the boss. And on that note, I'm going to be having to wrap up here a little bit.
Yeah, we're getting ready to get out of here
because it's 1 a.m. We're a little after 1, and I'm old. I need my cup of Ovaltine.
All right, well, let's see it real quick. It says Ellie says they've checked cameras. Would it be standard practice to check Wi-Fi servers? Not only will phones try to connect the server within range, but vehicles will as well. I believe that would be standard to check the Wi-Fi, who connects to Wi-Fi. That's isn't that how they got Brian location a lot? Koberger?
Well, you know what I used to say to crooks when they insulted me? Do you see stupid flashing on my forehead?
No.
Whoever, they can answer that question.
Oh.
Because I don't have the answer, but yes, the answer is yes. Okay, absolutely. But there's a lot more that's probably going on that I'll just reserve judgment on.
And Pima is still the lead on the case. That is true. And let me see here. The sister's affect in the video is flat and disconnected, stands out. It raises concern. Well, look, I mean, her house is getting searched. Her car has been seized. I don't think her mother is missing, and I don't think that she's probably too thrilled about all of those things going on at one time. So, I think all of their affect were, they're just, who knows? I mean, there's all bets are off at this point.
They're dealing with everyone's worst nightmare.
Yes. So, but I understand why people are interested in them. And, that's just how it is. I mean, you had a leak come out that there's possibly a person of interest, but then not only that, now they've searched the home many times, taken photos, crime scene, and the story keeps changing about who dropped off who. Anyway, it has been over 3 hours. I've had you guys on here, and it's been a fantastic show, and I've loved every minute of it. Even look, somebody in the chat said, "Can you believe they said that I was bland?" Can you believe that?
You?
Me? They said, "Is the host always this bland?" I said, "Wow." I mean, I've been called a lot of things before, Chris, but
that's ridiculous. Bland is definitely not the word I'd use for you. But
what is Dr. Gary?
Will be a word I'd use for you.
Yeah.
Exhilarating.
Okay.
But the thing is, I will say as a final point is that I have learned in being in the public eye for a few years now, is that I used to get very upset about it when you have like that one, slightly askew person that feels the need to criticize or say something. And what I learned is that the people who care about you and love you in the community, fans, people that they come together like a kind of immune system and very rapidly push those people out. So what you'll see is you'll get a person in the chat who'll say something like, really outrageous. And the other ones will be like, get out of here. Like, you're a jerk. Like, you don't know what you do. And then they just sort of like compensate for that. And I think it is important to remember that we have a tendency to pay attention, like the comedian that notices the one person who isn't laughing. The reality is that the vast majority of people, I think, appreciate this work, the fact that we really don't get anything out of doing this, right? That we're just sitting here trying to help the public and help people understand what's going on. I mean, what on earth are we getting out of this? And I think I am always appreciative of the humility and the generosity of all of you. I mean, I really honestly, I'm astounded at the energy we have. People are like, how could you do your job and still find time to do this? So then you're being generous, you're being kind, and then somebody just decides in the middle of all of that to knock you? Like, are you kidding me? Like, beggars can't be choosers, Go get your news from somebody who, has no idea what they're talking about.
Well, we used to take it much more personal. I remember Chris and we used to. I'm so used to it by now. It's not even a big deal.
You get immune to it, after a little
well,
while.
because the good outweighs the bad.
That's what I'm saying. It's like there are hundreds of people here that don't think you're bland.
I know. Well, I didn't take offense to it. I've been called a lot of things. Bland wasn't one of them. But
Right.
All right, so we're gonna. Chris, do you have any shows coming up?
No, I may do
Barring
something
any
more.
unforeseen events, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, make sure to stop
good.
up in the interview room. And John, please, your book. Tell us a little bit about your book. And we've been running it in the chat, and the link will be in the bio. Dr. Gary's link as well, and link to the interview room will also be in the description down below. But John, if you would please, and I appreciate your time and coming on last minute. You're a great addition to this panel, and
Well, it's truly been my pleasure, and you've got wonderful people, wonderful comments. The books are the series of my memoirs, and they cover my time in law enforcement. The first one was called Service with a Sneer, and this gives you an idea of what these books are like. There's a lot of snarky humor. I know probably that will shock anybody that has been paying attention to me talking, that I'm had a reputation. Fortunately, I'm changed now. I'm a better man, of being a wise mouth. And so I cover in the first book, as a military policeman at the end of the Vietnam War. I didn't get to Vietnam. I saw we had a question. The Vietnam War was wrapping up. And then working for Riverside County Sheriffs near Palm Springs. The second book, which came out last year, is called Beach Blanket Bedlam. And that covers working as a patrol cop and CSI in Oceanside in the early 80s. And later this year, I will be coming out with the book of my first 2 years working homicide, and that's called Bring Out Your Dead. And that will cover a series of, and for those who recognize Monty Python and the Holy Grail, that's where the line comes from. But that tends to be more of a true crime book when it comes out. That will cover murder investigations. I work robberies and a serial essay that I profiled and was able to identify him. And that book will be out later this year. So
I didn't know you were a Monty Python fan. I roll on the floor laughing every time I think about that rabbit attacking them in that cave and all the blood. Remember? He said, "That's a rabbit."
Yes, the rabbit, and the wizard named Tim.
I can't.
Yes, Monty Python. And in fact, I used to tell young officers that when they came on the job, that you are entering into a life where Monty Python is real life. You are going to be dealing with surreal situations, and you either learn to laugh very loudly at them or find someplace else to work, because this is but anyway, those are my books. And before that, I wrote cozy murder mysteries, believe it or not, Josh.
Yeah, very cute.
Teddy bear book.
What's that?
Teddy bear.
They were cozy mysteries set in the world of collectible teddy bears. And at one point, my wife, who I lost in December of 2024,
Sorry to hear that.
but we collected teddy bears, and we had like we had, I don't know, 400 or 500 bears, enough that it would have been considered mental illness in like 11 states. I knew more about teddy bears than any heterosexual male in North America. And so
Loved her.
I wrote those murder mysteries before that. So
And you wrote Spectrum, the ghost stories.
I wrote,
San
actually, the
Diego.
very first book I'd published was a collection of investigations into haunted places in San Diego, and that's called San Diego Specters. And that was a fun
And
book.
it's still on sale in
Oh yeah,
in the bookstores down there. So if you ever go to
the Whaley House.
John, I hate to tell you, but you probably know more about teddy bears than any gay man in history too. So
don't go
It
there.
would depend on which teddy bear show you went to.
you're just the expert.
And the history of teddy
There's
bears.
a great bookshop in Seaport Village. If you ever make it to San Diego for vacation, Seaport Village has a great
What's
bookshop.
the
Books
Crow?
Huh?
It's Seaport Village. I'm trying to think of the name of the bookshop.
I think it's Poe. Right? No?
No, the Crow, the something or other Crow.
The Crow.
And I want to say this before we go, and we're getting out of here. I want to thank everybody that's here. The lab, we hit 40,000 subscribers tonight.
Oh, congratulations!
Wonderful.
Which is a huge deal for me.
Yep.
Just
Well deserved.
I am truly humbled and blessed that to reach something like that, and we just keep growing, and I, in large part thanks to Dr. Gary, Chris, and John as well. Having you guys on really gives a legitimacy to my channel. Not only the goofiness that I do sometimes bring, but I've been podcasting for a long time, and I've gone through several different genres, and I do several different genres, and this being with you guys makes it just that much more enjoyable, because I truly have found friends in you all. So thank you guys so much, and thank you to everyone who has subscribed, and it means a lot to me. So
you better read all your questions, and I'm going to check out. But congratulations, well done, well deserved, and aloha.
All right,
see you guys on the next one.
See you later.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you, Josh, again for having me.
John, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Dr. Gary, thank you as well.
Welcome. I see some people in the audience who have written to me that I owe responses to. I want to thank people too, because as we said in the beginning, The New Evil Tonight became the #1 bestseller in all of forensic psychology on Amazon, according to Amazon, on Amazon. And I was thrilled. I mean, it's been out since 2019. It's been #1 a few times, but I mean, all these years later, and that really I think is amazing. And that's because of all the exposure that's been surrounding these shows, and so that's really, really wonderful. And I also want to thank people who've been visiting my piano page, I almost wonder if I should stop doing it, because virtually nobody watches it anymore. I guess
and we've been running that as well. Dr. Gary does have a piano page. Please check that out, subscribe to it. And he updates on it quite often, and he
compositions and pieces
that he interacts on there as well. He responds to, so please check that out. And Dr. Gary, #1 in forensic psychology is a big deal.
I was thrilled. And poor Michael, isn't here to see it staying at doing so well. I don't really like the Audible version very much, because you miss the images and the charts, and they also somehow forgot to mention that I wrote all of part 1. Like when you read the book, it clearly says like the entirety of part 1 I wrote. Right. Part 2 was written by Michael, and we wrote the third part together. And it just inexplicably doesn't mention that, which I find very strange. I don't know if they've ever corrected it, but thank you. I just want to take a chance to say thank you, and thank you, of course, for your ongoing friendship, And you know, it's funny, Josh. We all get a little defensive sometimes when people say dark things. So I think it was an interesting conversation about.
As somebody pointed out in the chat earlier, one time I said to somebody who left a comment that her dog was ugly, and because she was being mean to me, and that was years ago, But I did say that. I mean, there's not, and I apologize because the dog wasn't ugly, but her attitude really was.
Well, and people, anyone who's trying, I get a lot of people saying, like, in the chat, they're like, "Oh, I want to reach you, but I don't know how." Whatever. Well, first of all, it's very easy to find my email. I'm always surprised by anybody who says they can't just find it right there on the internet. But you could always just go to the piano page and write a message, and I'll respond.
Yes.
And so that's here in the show. It's very easy. It's like one of those things. If somebody wants to reach you, they will. But I just wanted to take a chance to say thank you, and I'm glad that I got to come on here finally and really start to talk a little bit about this case.
Yeah, and
there's going to be a lot to say. But I think it's going to get solved probably, and then we'll.
Yeah, and we'll keep on it. When things come up, we'll keep covering it, and I'll be getting your guys' input as well. And like I said, I truly appreciate it. Tonight we had the most live viewers on the lab that I've ever had.
Is that true?
I think it was probably double. I think once before I had 3,000 live viewers. Tonight we had over 6,000 live viewers. And I know that this is a case that has garnered a lot of attention, and then bringing you guys in, was a real blessing for me and the channel to be able.
Milestones going on. It's a wonderful thing, and happy Lunar New Year to those who celebrate coming up. Anybody, for example, who's Chinese, or we have the Lunar New Year coming, I think, on the 17th, if I'm not mistaken. And happy Valentine's Day to those who loathe Valentine's Day. Just remember what happened to Saint Valentine. It wasn't pretty, and that's supposed to be a joke. Chris, Josh, we did a show for Valentine's. Remember? That was called
I very much do remember.
Right.
Unless you have a hot date, maybe we could do another one.
Well,
he has a hot date.
No, it's just that.
I'm just kidding.
That's a special area of life, that we don't get into. That's a. We don't talk about that because it's.
And I want to say that Dr. Gary's his channel link will be in the description. It's also being ran in the chat at the moment, but it will be there for you guys to be able to.
I say we do another one of those. I think they're fun.
Why not?
What day is Valentine's this year? What day does it fall on? The Saturday?
Probably. Probably this.
That'll be fun. And I think people get a kick out of that. And I just wanted to give a chance to have a chance to say thank you to everybody, because people really are very sweet. And I get a couple of oddball things people say, but I have to say I don't get and I think it may be that true crime is what brings out certain types of people, because in the piano world, I have not had anybody, not a single soul, really say anything other than lovely things. That's beautiful. It brings me a lot of peace. It helps me to, and I think that's beautiful. And I get a lot of people who befriend me, chat with me, whatever, because they love the music. They're musicians themselves. So all that's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And so people are saying they don't know where it is. It's very easy. The subs will put it up. Okay. And I love to sign book plates for people and things, because I get a lot of autograph requests, believe it or not. And I
believe it.
Mail me the book. I mean, if people have tried, let me tell you, I have gotten some very special mail. But it's
pinned at the top, you guys, right now. But if you come back after the show, just go to the comment section. Holly is our mod Holly, and thank you to all the mods tonight. I know that we were sorely understaffed because of the size of the show, and I don't know how to combat that other than to slow the chat as much as possible. So I appreciate.
Well, you're leaving the world of being a mom and pop thing and becoming bigger. And as a consequence, there's going to probably have to be an expansion of all those processes. Because
Probably
the more
so.
you get, the more, so, but anyway, so listen, thank you for everyone. And, don't just come and listen. Let me know you're there and who you are. And I'll
Absolutely.
always answer you no matter how busy I am. Okay.
All right. Thank you,
Okay.
Dr. Gary.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And wow, that was really, that got really big. All right, guys, I appreciate it so much. This has been a fantastic evening. Thank you again to my guest, retired detective John Lamb, who was phenomenal homicide detective extraordinaire, Chris McDonough, and Dr. Gary, forensic psychologist and author of The New Evil. And then you have me. I'm just your host, and I appreciate you guys being here. I had a blast. I'd been looking forward to this, and thank you guys for giving us your time, and thank you for the donations, the memberships. Let me go through here. Yeah, for 50 months, Love Pink. That's crazy to me. And Eric, I want the sheriff to run my county. He may be looking for a job after this. Have a great night, guys. I appreciate that. And let me see. Dog treats for Macho and Otis. Dude, let me show you. If you haven't left yet, I'm going to show you this. Otis was doing something so fun. I showed this last night, but he's so cute. He drives me nuts, but he's so cute. He was pulling a piece of bamboo the other day. It was so funny. Let me see here. Look at him. You can't see the bamboo very well, but he's trying to get it. And he's sitting like a prairie dog. He's such a weird little guy. He enjoys it so much. It's so funny. He's trying to get to it. He couldn't get it. He was trying to pull it out of the ground. He sat there for, I don't know how long he's sat there. But he certainly tried his best. Here he goes. Look how he sits. He's such an odd little duck. Having the time of his life. The piece of bamboo, it was just so funny, man. I sat there and watched him for like 30 minutes do it. It was fantastic. But anyway, Rose, thank you for becoming a member as well. And Real Mikey, you guys are cooking, and I'm here for it. Can't get enough. Yeah, sometimes you got to let them cook. Got to let them cook. So, thank you guys again, and I will. Sounds like we're probably doing some sort of show on Saturday. So, if you're, and by the way, thank you for the compliments on the hair. I have a great barber. It's one of the only things I got going for me. So, anyway, guys, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. We'll see you next time. Go on here, Trump impression. I can do the Trump impression. Wow, what a great crowd. Great crowd. Wow.